I'm a DC superhero in Marvel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1: A Day in the Daily Bugle. Anton, wake up Anton. Betty Brand was helpless, looking at Anton, the editor-in-chief of the Daily Bugle. She could never imagine that J. Jonah Jameson would make such a mistake. He handed over his years of hard work to his grandson, a rich second generation who dropped out of college and had no skills. How foolish! Exclamation mark. Huh. Anton opened his eyes in confusion and subconsciously wiped the saliva on the desk. Then he looked up blankly and looked at the blonde and blue-eyed young secretary in front of him. He didn't know whether he was dreaming or not. Anton, this is the front page of the Daily Bugle tomorrow. You need to confirm and sign it. Betty handed the document to Anton. Anton subconsciously took the document, signed it and handed it back. Betty twisted her graceful body and left. Anton looked at Betty's hips, and some information emerged in his mind. The young man couldn't help but widen his eyes. His memory captured an English name on Betty's document just now, and he suddenly realized it. No, the name I signed just now was not my name. Anton. I got 70 points in the college entrance examination for English, and I took the set 4 twice in my 4 years of college, with the highest score of 364. How can I understand this? Suddenly, Anton's body froze. The front page of the newspaper that Betty just handed over and will be on the market tomorrow suddenly appeared in his mind. Photographic memory. Anton was not excited to obtain this necessary skill for time travelers. Instead, he slumped in the soft boss chair like a salted fish, holding his hair with his hands, and was speechless. Tony shit big! Exclamation mark. The newspaper just now was called the Daily Bugle. It was enough to explain the situation. Anton was speechless. It was already the 21st century, and he knew very well what kind of story he had encountered. To match this kind of story, there is also a golden finger. Of course, it can't be a useless photographic memory. DC template. Anton touched his chin, immersed in his mind. In an instant, it was as if time stopped, and he was in a new world. System space. This place was like a laboratory, with various DC hero armors placed around, including Batman, Flash, Green Arrow, Green Lantern, Cyborg, Atom, Wonder Woman, and so on. The various armors were shrouded in transparent light. Anton reached out to touch it and found that the transparent light was impenetrable, just like a girl always wearing safety pants under her skirt. Damn it. Unlocking method. Increase the hero's fan value. Anton saw a line of words floating on the light, scratched his head, and a lot of complicated information emerged in his mind again, like a downpour, making his brain ache. I see. Anton understood that these DC hero armors were all prepared for him by the system. The condition for unlocking these armors is to increase the fan value of the hero corresponding to the armor, and use the fan value to unlock the armor. Of course, these armors contain all the abilities of the corresponding heroes. In other words, once he puts on the armor, Anton can become Batman, Green Lantern, Superman, Wonder Woman, etc., as if he has mixed into the wrong gender. However, this is not important. Anton was very excited. As a movie fan, he has been fascinated by the fantasy universe created by Marvel and DC countless times. This time, he directly fulfilled his 2 wishes. Anyway, he didn't have much to miss about his previous life, and his previous loss of consciousness was also because he was at a loss when he just crossed over. The cheap dad of this body is John Jameson, an astronaut, and his grandfather is J. Jonah Jameson, a famous entrepreneur in New York and the owner of the Daily Bugle. Anton's eyes lit up. As a famous newspaper in New York, the Daily Bugle has a market value of billions and its tentacles extend to all walks of life in New York. Anton can be regarded as a rich second generation with status. According to memory, Jonah Jameson started from scratch, from a small reporter to the creation of a newspaper company with a market value of billions. Now he is a little tired and plans to stop and enjoy life. Therefore, He willfully retained his position as the president of the Daily Bugle and let his grandson take over the editor-in-chief job that he had originally held. No one expressed incomprehension about this appointment. The Daily Bugle was where Jonah Jameson's dream began, controlled by the Jameson family, and was also Jonah Jameson's most cherished enterprise. It was most reassuring to put it in the hands of one's own people. Is there anyone closer than one's own grandson? If not Anton, should he rely on Anton's cheap father, Jonah Jameson's cheap son, the astronaut John? Anton's thoughts turned. The system will randomly select the primary hero template. As the thought fell, the surrounding armors passed by his eyes like a revolving lantern, and finally, they were fixed on a black shadow with a flying cape and two pointed ears. Batman. Anthony was not disappointed. In the Marvel world, it was the right way to choose Superman without thinking. If Superman could not be randomly selected, Batman was also the best choice. Besides, his favorite DC hero is Batman. Although Superman has more abilities, Batman is the father of DC. Since the main hero template is Batman, a special novice gift package fracture card is given. The original price of Batman with a fan value of 50 million is now only 9.98 million. You can't lose or be fooled with 9.98 million. You deserve it. A pleasant reminder sound rang in my ears. The armor in front of Anton suddenly shone brightly, projecting scenes. In addition to the standard armor in front of him, Batman's various armors also appeared, including Fenrir armor, Rabbit armor, Slam armor, Insider suit, Anti-Superman armor, Kingdom Come armor, Thermal armor, etc. In addition, Batman's image kept changing in Anton's eyes. As a fan of Batman, Anton instantly recognized what the identity of these Batmans was. They were all black and Batman. Red Death, Dawnbreaker, Ruthless War Demon, Killing Machine, Laughing Bat, Drowned Ghost, Doomsday Bat. Anton was stunned. The regret of not getting Superman by chance disappeared. If he could exchange these Batman armors, wouldn't he be able to dominate? After an unknown amount of time, Anton left the system space and felt the flow of time again. A soft warm breeze blew in from the open window. At this moment, Anton was excited. The confusion of crossing was completely covered by the huge surprise. Of course, exchanging armor requires the fan value of the hero. For example, with the help of the fracture card, the Batman armor that was originally worth 50 million fan value now only needs 9.98 million. However, these special armors in the Batman template and the special forms after blackening are not exchanged by fan value, but justice value. Fan value is easy to understand. It can be simply replaced by popularity. The higher the popularity, the more fans you will naturally have. And justice value refers to the reward score determined by the system after doing good deeds or fighting crime in units of 10,000. Anton looked at the justice value required for these armors in the Batman template. The lowest is the Slam armor, which requires 5 million justice value, followed by the Rabbit armor, which is worth 8 million. The others are all worth more than 10 million, and the highest armor, the 6th dimension ultimate armor, is even worth hundreds of millions. This is a bit difficult. Anton pondered for a moment and realized the intention of the system. The fan value shows that the system hopes that Anton can expand the fame of DC heroes in the Marvel world and even occupy Marvel in the name of DC. The justice value shows that the system does not want Anton to use some unconventional means to expand the fame of DC, but hopes that Anton can replace the gradually growing Marvel heroes by doing good things or saving the world. Interesting. Anton laughed. Many comments are talking about a problem that there are DC comics in the Marvel worldview. Let me go back and tell you at the beginning that in the worldview setting of this book, there is nothing about the DC universe in the Marvel world. This is just a harmless little setting, and it won't subvert everyone's perception of Marvel. After all, it seems that Marvel and DC are unlikely to have a plot linkage in the movie universe. At most it's just talk in the lines. I want to have a unique entry point, which makes it interesting, so I wrote it like this. I hope everyone will not get stuck in a dead end. When you are indecisive, parallel universe, forgive me. Chapter 2, Gambling for Nothing. It was sunset. The golden sunset climbed over the windowsill and fell on half of Anton's body. He looked at the time, and it was time to get off work. Anton was about to stand up when the phone on the table began to vibrate and make crisp sounds. Ring, ring, ring. He picked up the phone and saw a familiar name written on it. Tony Stark. Huh. Anton was stunned, and the image of Tony Stark with a mustache and an arrogant face immediately appeared in his mind, and he subconsciously felt unhappy. Anton, you won't forget the party tonight, right? As soon as the call was connected, Tony Stark's frivolous and dissolute voice came from the other side of the phone. If you are willing to admit defeat now, I don't mind showing mercy. It was full of sarcasm, especially when it came from the master of foul mouth, Tony Stark. It was even more sarcastic. Anton was stunned, and a string of memories quickly figured out the whole story. The original owner was a rich kid who loved to pick up girls, take baths, and show off his wealth. Although there was a gap between him and Tony Stark, who was already the chairman of the Stark Group, his social circles overlapped to a high degree, so it was inevitable that they would meet. At a party not long ago, the two had a conflict and made a bet on picking up girls. Anton lost the game as expected. Tony Stark used money to pave the way, not only taking away the girl they had bet on at the time, but also using money to buy away all the women at the party at the time, even the cleaning lady who cleaned up the party afterwards. By the way, Anton also lost his female companion. This made him a laughingstock. It has to be admitted that Tony Stark is not only a scientific and technological genius, but also a rare talent in picking up girls and dealing with people. Therefore, the two have been fighting openly and secretly at recent parties. Anton always loses, but he is unyielding. Tony enjoys this. According to some lackeys, Tony has fallen in love with this unequal contest and has invested a lot of energy in it. In the entire New York celebrity circle, many other second-generation rich people of similar status, like Tony Stark, have fun with this and even follow the opening bets. Apparently, it's time to open the market again tonight. Pick up girls? Anton felt itchy, stood up suddenly, and rushed into the garage. Boom. A cool Bugatti Veyron passed through the street. The constant roar of the car attracted the envious eyes of countless passers-by. He is indeed not skilled in picking up girls, but looking through the original owner's memory, is that called picking up girls? That's clearly called spending money. Who doesn't know how to spend money? No way, no way. There can't be anyone who doesn't know how to spend money, right? Is Anton not coming tonight? Damn, it's so unlucky. I bet 100,000 on him. What the hell? You are so brave. You dare to bet on Anton? I have never won when I bet on Anton. That's right. Damn, if I hadn't drawn Anton in the lottery, do you think I would have bet on him? Since Anton has never won once, these people now use the lottery to open the betting. Whoever is drawn will bet on him. A group of second generations, each holding a female companion, gathered around the swimming pool to chat. Tony Stark was in the middle of the crowd, holding a few top-looking and hot beauties, and his lecherous eyes were about to get into the ditch. Soon, Anton arrived. He crossed the crowd and saw this group of friends. You are finally here. I thought you didn't dare to come. Anton, I bet 100,000 on you today. The friends greeted Anton one after another. That's nice, brother. Anton said to the last man. I'll make you rich today, Anton. Tony was attracted by the noise and saw his old rival at a glance. With the footsteps of not recognizing any relatives, he laughed contemptuously. Defeater, have you thought about how to go home and cry in the quilt today? Tony, don't get carried away. Anton glanced at Tony. Do you think your sexy mustache can really attract girls? Or not? Tony spread his hands with an innocent look on his face and said righteously, why do you think I would have a relationship with a beautiful sister? For a billionaire like me, talking about love is an insult to my wealth. I'm glad to see that you have a clear mind. For a beautiful woman, the position of magazine cover girl is more attractive than going to bed with a weak shrimp like you. Anton sneered. So, Tony didn't care. Is it important? Of course it's important, because I can give them more. Anton stared at the big-breasted and hip-shaped blonde beauty next to Tony and said with a smile, Beauty, I have a 100 million project to discuss with you. Are you interested in being my heroine? That's it? Tony was not panicked at all and looked at Anton with a smile. Are you poaching my girls? Come on, you have used this trick 12 times. Don't you still understand the trick to defeat me? It has always been him poaching others, not others poaching him. Of course, with his blind self-confidence, he never worried that someone would poach his girls. Sorry, you are very attractive, but I already have a boyfriend. The blonde beauty was indeed unmoved. Obviously, as far as the current situation is concerned, compared with Tony, who loves to show off and is famous all over the world, Anton is a little famous in New York, but compared with Tony Stark, who is in charge of Stark Industries, it is still far from enough. The name of Stark Group is not only popular in the United States. As an arms giant, the Stark Group has a certain amount of power worldwide. The wealth behind Anton is like the difference between a noble family and a small town landlord. Although they are all nobles, they are also divided into different classes. Well, you will soon find out how big an opportunity you have missed. Anton remained calm. Although he was rejected, he was still full of confidence. With the system in hand, I have the world. It's 2020. If the time traveler is not handsome and has no confidence, how can the readers feel involved? Wow, Anton, you look very different today. Tony stared at Anton with interest, feeling that his old rival seemed to have something more and a different temperament compared to before. You seem very confident. Tony smiled and said, do you think you are more attractive than me? Fortunately, Anton came here today, not just to pick up girls. Tony, we are all handsome guys. The only thing left to compare is strength. Anton said, you also know that I just took over the family's Bugle Daily, but I'm not interested in making newspapers. What do you mean? I plan to enter the entertainment industry and make movies. You want to be a director? Tony understood at once, opened his eyes wide, and looked up and down at the guy in front of him. He could never have thought that this guy who had been competing with him for so long would have such a bizarre idea. Wait, you must want to. Tony showed a lewd smile, thinking that he saw through the other party. He knew very well what kind of person Anton was. It's not that he is completely unlearned, but at least he has no outstanding talents, except for the life skill second only to himself, spending money to pick up girls. What do you care what I want to do? Anton rolled his eyes. He didn't know that his words somehow echoed Tony's thoughts. The two looked at each other. Anton clearly saw a hint of eagerness in Tony's eyes. This guy's really a show-off. Anton thought back and smiled and said, how about it, Tony Stark? Are you interested in playing together? How do you play? Tony's face did not change, but Anton could see that Tony was excited. As the saying goes, the person who knows you best is often not your friend, but your opponent. Anton's original owner had been in contact with Tony for quite a while and had suffered losses at his hands many times. Of course, he had a deep understanding of Tony's arrogant personality who loved to show off. Invest 100 million, half for each of us. Let's bet on the box office. Anton crossed his arms and looked at Tony Stark confidently. If we make money, I will win. If we lose, I will be your follower, work like a cow and a horse, carry your bag behind you, and call you daddy. Although I know you are here to cheat money, it doesn't matter. Tony laughed. Just 50 million. I will play with you, Anton, and look forward to you being my bag carrying brother. Suddenly, he changed the subject. But, I never do business at a loss. You say. Anton said calmly. I have to add a condition. Tony looked Anton up and down. The box office return rate must exceed 50%. Otherwise, you will still lose. No problem. Anton agreed immediately and then said, what if I win? If you win, the profits of this movie, including the principal, will be yours, and I won't take a penny. Tony was confident. In addition, I will hold a party in your name in Los Angeles, and the girls will be yours. Deal. Anton smiled. Chapter 3 Jonah Jameson. Tony and Anton are fighting again. Didn't you hear just now? This time they've changed the game. I heard it's because of the female star next to Tony. Movie? Interesting. It makes me want to get involved. There are so many female stars in Hollywood, and I haven't slept with many of them. These two really know how to have fun. Money is a small problem. The main problem is that Anton actually wants to be a movie director. TSK, is he crazy? This time there's something interesting to watch. It's much more exciting than making a movie. Make this bet into a movie and put a Tony Stark label on it. It will definitely sell well. A bunch of top second generation rich people who have nothing to do discussed the bet between Anton and Tony with great interest. Compared to that, this luxurious dinner has become tasteless in their eyes. Now they just want to stare at the most exciting part and chew it over and over again. Are they both gone? No, they're still inside. They haven't fought yet. So what about the bet we just made? Keep it for now. We'll see when the movie comes out. I heard that if Anton loses, he'll be Tony's bag carrier. Exciting. Really exciting. A bunch of second generation rich people rushed into the banquet hall and saw two more beauties around Tony. The same thing happened to Anton. Although he didn't bring a female companion when he came, he was not short of women around him at this time. As a rich kid, Anton's status is still quite popular in New York, and girls are happy to stick to him. Moreover, the bet between Tony and Anton was not only spread among the second generation rich, but also the onlookers who witnessed it with their own eyes were also very surprised. Just to fight for a breath, both sides threw out 50 million. This is not playing with money. Anton, are you really going to make a movie? A charming beauty with top appearance was entangled with Anton, her cheek almost touching Anton's chest. Her hands were around, and she whispered in his ear, I think this movie is still missing a heroine. Ha ha ha, you are right. Anton unceremoniously hugged the waist of the beauty in front of him, and said with a smile, beautiful lady, are you interested in being my heroine tonight? A night of romance. The next day, Anton left the hotel refreshed. Before getting in the car, he casually threw the beauty's contact information into the trash can. The Daily Bugle. Betty looked at Anton in surprise. She didn't expect that Anton actually came to the newspaper office on time. It was really the sun rising from the west. Betty, how long have you been in the newspaper office? What was even more unexpected to her was that Anton asked such a question when he saw her. From graduation to today, about 3 years. Betty replied. Anton nodded and said, you have been the old man's assistant and you know the situation of the newspaper very well. I'm relieved that you will take over my work in the future, and the old man is relieved too. Betty had a question mark on her forehead. It's settled. Anton stood up, waved his hand, and left the office, saying, I will go to discuss this matter with the old man now. Betty watched Anton leave without looking back, thinking that Anton was probably tired of playing and wanted to go somewhere else. However, Jameson might be furious. As she expected. Bang! Exclamation mark. In a high-end villa area in New York. You bastard. Do you think my Bugle Daily is a place where you can come and go as you please? Jameson slapped the table with a slap, his face flushed, and his neck thick with anger. It is definitely the right decision to give your hard work to Betty, who is more reliable. Anton stared at the old man in surprise. Before I took over the newspaper, weren't you planning to train Betty to be your successor? Bullshit. Jameson shouted loudly, she is your assistant, and she can only be an assistant forever. The editor-in-chief position is not even the turn of a young girl who has just graduated. Anton said, you are discriminating against women. As the boss of a newspaper, you are sitting on the wrong side. Discrimination. Jameson disdainfully, even if I discriminate, no one will believe it if I tell others. I'm a famous equal rights fighter in New York City. Except for the mayor, the council members have to look at my face. Do you think you can threaten me? I'm not threatening you. I just want you to talk nicely. Anton remained calm. Although the old man in front of him was angry and showed a ferocious face, he really didn't think it was that scary. In his memory, Jonah Jameson was most proud of his son. That is, the cheap father of Anton's body. He accidentally made his girlfriend give birth to his John Jameson at the age of 19. However, as an astronaut, John spends a quarter of the year in the space station and the remaining 3/4 of the time in the astronaut base for training and recovery. It has been almost a year since he disappeared, and he has very little time to rest. Anton flipped through the memories in his mind and found that his impression of this astronaut father was quite vague, and his mother took a breakup fee from Jameson after giving birth to him. She has not shown up for so many years. I don't know where she is living happily. The closest person in his life has become the old man in front of him who has a sharp tongue, but a soft heart. In the original time and space plot, he especially likes to fight with a little spider who has not appeared yet. Anyway, I don't care about the newspaper anymore. Anton said firmly, I'm going to make a movie. To be honest with you, old man, I've already thought about what movie to make. You? Jameson was furious and sneered. Anton, I will never pay for that money. You might as well go to Hollywood next door to be the leading actor in a porn movie. Maybe I can earn enough for your night's drinks. Anton automatically ignored Jameson's foul mouth and shrugged lightly. I don't need your money. I've already found a sucker. Oh no, an investor. Who? Jameson was shocked. Are there really such stupid people in the world? I'm really happy to hear you say that. Anton laughed and said happily, because it's rare that we two stubborn people have reached a consensus on one thing. Tell me who it is. Jameson snorted. Who dares to invest money in you? I promise I will run to him and laugh at him for being a moron. Tony, your hairstylist? Anton was silent for a moment, then said, it's Tony from Stark Industries, the top genius inventor of the 21st century, a global arms giant, a playboy who has slept with all the female models in weekly magazines, and at the same time, a rare idiot in the world you just mentioned. Jameson fell silent. He opened his mouth, feeling that he had only retired for a few days and was out of touch with this society. How could Tony Stark, who was famous for being both stupid and smart, be mixed up with his own man, who was also famous for being both stupid and not smart? No matter how you think about it, they are birds of a feather. Tell me, which female star do you want to sleep with? Jameson thought he had seen through Anton's trick and rubbed his temple. You are slandering someone's innocence out of thin air. Anton said righteously, old man, I didn't expect you to be this kind of person. I'm going to cut off ties with you for 3 months. Don't bother me during these 3 months. I will go and start my own business. Then should I help you make up your mind and freeze your bank card? Okay, I will reconsider the issue of cutting off ties with you and give you an answer tomorrow. Seriously, you are not really going to make a movie, are you? Of course, I have the script. Show it to me. Anton was speechless and choked for a while, then quickly said, I will give it to you when I give you an answer tomorrow. Jameson's mouth twitched and he felt that Anton was unreliable. Then he waved his hand, indicating that I was impatient and you should get out of my sight. Anton followed his advice and returned to the room. Jameson behind him looked at his back as he turned and left, opened his mouth, and finally said nothing. Anyway, this time Tony Stark, the famous prodigal son, was backing him up, so Anton could do whatever he wanted. Jameson really didn't want to bother with his prodigal son. Of course, he also made up his mind to change the will immediately and put all the cash originally left to Anton into the family trust fund. When I die, you will just get a fixed salary in the future, you little brat. Don't even think about getting a penny more every month. Chapter 4, Spider-Man's Anti-Fans Lair. Anton opened the computer document in the room and typed in the name of the movie. Batman Begins. Goldfinger not only gave him the DC hero template, but also made him remember everything he saw. The memory here does not simply refer to his good memory, but also represents the standard of entertainment novels. In other words, he remembered everything he experienced in his previous life. Even the shape of the urine he peed when he was 3 years old in his previous life was deeply ingrained in his mind. And no matter what the plot of the movie is, as long as he has seen it, he knows it like the back of his hand. He can repeat all the lines and music. Of course, Anton knows nothing about writing scripts. He plans to expand the original Batman background a little, based on the movie plot in his mind, and first write a novel of more than 200,000 words. After writing a few words, Anton racked his brains. Suddenly realized that he is now a spoiled and extravagant rich kid, and he can pay someone to write for him for hard work. So, he only prepared a rough outline, and planned to find a few more screenwriters, when he contacted the film producer through the old man's relationship the next day. The happiness of rich people is really unimaginable to poor people. Anton fell down, and lay on the expensive exquisite European-style bed, happily imagining the future, looking at the ceiling and falling asleep. Things went unexpectedly smoothly. After coming out of the system space, Anton immediately had the idea of creating a virtual star to make Batman famous, based on the fan value or popularity specified by the system. For example, in the previous life, The major characters in One Piece, as well as Sun Wukong in ancient Chinese mythology, Odin and the gods in Norse mythology, and Zeus and the gods in Greek mythology, are all familiar figures in the world. Using fan value to convert, each character can be calculated in billions. Frankly speaking, this is the simplest, most convenient and most labor-saving way. Of course, it costs a little money. But once it is successful, it is not only the fan value that is harvested, but also the money in the fan bag. If it can be carried out in a virtuous cycle, it will kill several birds with one stone. There is no better way. As for whether Batman can attract fans and achieve the expected effect of spreading popularity, Anton is very confident. Just look at the past life, when superhero culture swept the world, and you can see how hot this trend is. Not to mention, the world where superheroes really exist is a huge market for superhero works that has yet to be developed. Time is like quicksand, and the night passed quickly. Swish. Anton opened his eyes and staggered out of bed. As soon as he went downstairs, he saw the old man sitting at the table eating breakfast. Jonah Jameson. Where's the script? Jameson glanced at him and spoke coldly. But Anton was not in a hurry and laughed secretly. He had guessed the old man's arrogant character long ago. He said that he didn't care, but in fact, if Anton had a brainache one day and wanted to go to space to accompany his cheap dad, the old man would definitely want to build a rocket to send and tender the sky. Anton smiled and said, "The outline has been written." He turned around and found the printer, imported the document, and printed a few sheets of paper on which were densely written a bunch of background, character settings, and a brief story outline. "You call this a script?" Jameson's mouth twitched, and he once again wondered if his brain was broken and he actually had hope for this prodigal son. "Take a look first." Anton was not impatient. Although he didn't write much, the simple story on this piece of paper already had the basic conditions to move people's hearts. Jameson was once the owner of a newspaper and had been working in journalism for decades. He was also considered a half-writer. With outstanding abilities, he had the basic ability to distinguish whether a piece of news was attractive. By analogy, he could also roughly distinguish whether a story had a selling point. After reading the story of Batman for a few minutes, Jameson's face changed visibly, and he was very surprised. "Did you think of this story? Did you copy it?" Jameson couldn't believe it. As Anton's grandfather, he never thought that Anton had the ability to become a creator. "Where can I copy it?" Anton crossed his arms and said angrily, "Sitting in the Daily Bugle every day, do you think those busy reporters will have nothing to do and tell stories to please me? Do you think I'm the kid who will not sleep or tell stories while holding your thigh? Well, although there are only a few pieces of paper, you have impressed me a little bit." Jameson pondered for a moment. He was ready to use his connections in the entertainment industry to help Anton build this framework. Anyway, it was not difficult for him. Although he didn't know what method Anton used to get investment from Tony Stark, the sucker, but in this way, no matter how much loss there was, it had nothing to do with his family. Jameson saw clearly the process of borrowing chickens to lay eggs and making money out of nothing. "I can help you find someone, but I won't give you a penny." Jameson looked at Anton. "You need to negotiate everything yourself. If you can satisfy me, I will no longer interfere in your life in the future. Don't worry, old man, I won't give you another chance to interfere in my life." Anton smiled. Jonah Jameson's answer was within his expectations. As the one who inherited all of Anton's memories, he was very clear about his position in Jameson's heart. To outsiders, Jameson was a stubborn, profit-oriented, and uncaring businessman. To Anton, Jameson would always be the arrogant grandfather with a sharp tongue, but a soft heart. As for the bet with Tony Stark, the additional $50 million that he needed to invest, he could make up for it with his private money, and even the worst result could be offset by falsifying the accounts. "By the way, don't quit the Daily Bugle for now. I will find another editor-in-chief to replace you." Jameson thought for a moment and said, "As for you, just be the deputy editor-in-chief in name only. At least you have a way out if you fail." "No problem." Anton nodded and asked curiously, "By the way, who are you going to let take the position of the new editor-in-chief?" "Betty." "Eddie Brock." Jameson interrupted him and said, "Eddie is a well-known reporter from the Globe Daily. He has been in the industry for almost 10 years. Maybe you haven't heard of him, but No, I have heard of him. This time it was Anton's turn to interrupt Jameson. He said with a strange look on his face, "Eddie Brock, I know him." "That's good." Jameson was not surprised. After all, Anton had been the editor-in-chief of the Daily Bugle for a while. Knowing Eddie Brock meant that Anton had indeed done some serious work during this period and understood the dynamics of the industry. "Why did you look for him?" Anton was even more curious. A few days ago, Eddie Brock was banged by the Globe and was on the verge of bankruptcy. "Someone found me through connections and hoped that I would give him a job." Jameson said expressionlessly. "I was going to refuse, but you just said you wanted to change jobs, so I thought of him." "Then again, why can't it be Betty? You can become the editor-in-chief at such a young age because you are the boss's grandson. How can Betty independently control the newspaper?" "That makes sense." Anton was speechless. However, it is really exciting to think that Venom works for his own company. Wait, so it's not that enemies will meet again? Spider-Man and Venom will be colleagues in the future? In addition to Jonah Jameson, the leader of Spider-Man's anti-fans, the Daily Bugle can be regarded as the biggest den of Spider-Man's anti-fans. Chapter 5, Film Preparation. After reaching an agreement with the old man, Anton took his own private plane and flew to Los Angeles that day to discuss cooperation on Batman Begins with the film producer that the old man had arranged for him. As a media tycoon, Jonah Jameson also has a holding film and television production company under his command and even has a certain proportion of shares in other major entertainment-related companies. Rounding off, they are all family members. Considering that Anton is his grandson, Jameson has given him the biggest green light. "Mr. Anton, first meeting. The man is Jim Lambert, a second-tier producer in Hollywood. He has been in the industry for 30 years and has participated in the production of nearly 100 high-quality films. He is very experienced. What Jim is most proud of is that 7 or 8 years ago, a certain movie he participated in and led achieved the amazing results of being in the top 5 of the global annual box office and the top 50 of the global box office rankings. This movie made him a first-tier producer. For a while, he was in the limelight and had many beautiful cars and beauties. However, after reaching the top of the mountain, unless you ascend immediately, there is only one way down the mountain. Jim followed this rule perfectly. Although the works he participated in recent years received good reviews, most of them were losses, and those that were good only made a small profit. The continuous failure made him fall from the status of a first-line producer to a second-line producer. Otherwise, Jameson would not be able to hire him. The status and power of Hollywood's first-line producers are not much worse than those of most film and television company bosses. And the few top producers have the ability to compete with the 6 major film companies. "Hello, Jim." Anton recalled the information he had learned about Jim Lambert. He handed the prepared film outline to the well-known producer in his early 50s who still looked energetic and looked like a middle-aged man, and smiled. "My old man should have told you that I plan to make a movie with an investment of $50 million. There is only one requirement, that success is the first prerequisite for everything. Even if it is not successful, I want this movie to be known to everyone. In any case, Batman's reputation must be spread. I'll do my best." Jim remained calm and polite, without much affection. He has a lot of money. Although his works in recent years have not been successful, they are far from being failures. Next, as long as there is a movie that can be successful before retirement, he can immediately restore his original position as a first-line producer with his previous accumulation. After a few years of dormancy, he is waiting for a beautiful turnaround. While he is in his early 50s and his waist can still move, he must squeeze out the last bit of energy. Therefore, Jim Lambert has become more cautious and rarely acts as a producer himself, unless he really encounters a project that he is interested in. The reason for meeting Anton is entirely out of respect for Jameson. Ooh la la. Flipping through the thin papers in his hand, Jim restrained the contempt in his eyes, sat up straight, and read it over and over again. The chaotic thoughts in his mind gradually gathered. This is a very novel type of movie. Jim looked at Anton and exclaimed, "What a genius idea. How did you come up with it?" "I call it a superhero movie. Captain America gave me the inspiration." Anton said, as we all know, he is the first superhero in history, a superhero that everyone is familiar with. Although he has been dead for 70 years, the amazing example is still attractive enough to us. We all understand what this means, which means that what I want to shoot has a broad enough market and return rate. Indeed. Jim could not deny, however, you think too simply. The success of a movie must consider many factors, including the most illusory luck. Anton then smiled and said, luck is on our side. Just because this is a movie invested by Tony Stark, this publicity point is worth at least tens of millions of box office. Tony Stark. Jim was surprised. The investor you attracted is Tony Stark, the famous playboy. Yes. Anton nodded. If you don't believe it, you can go and confirm with Tony Stark. Since it is a project that Tony Stark is optimistic about, with the help of Stark Group, this movie has the greatest possibility of success. Jim Lambert pondered for a moment, stood up and held out his hand to Anton. Then, happy cooperation. Happy cooperation. Anton smiled brightly. Of course, he would not tell Jim that Stark Group would not help the promotion of the movie at all. Tony Stark even hoped to see the movie fail. However, Batman's first appearance was like a dragon riding on his face. How could he lose? Knowing that Batman had extraordinary appeal in another world, he had unprecedented confidence in the success of this movie. One last question. After discussing the cooperation, Jim reminded before leaving, this movie should have a big scene, and the funds must be sufficient. What is your upper limit? Don't worry about the funds. Just go and prepare the crew and actors. Give me a plan and preliminary budget as soon as possible. Anton waved his hand, full of local tyrant aura, and said, I provide the story, and I will complete the script. You find a few screenwriters to come to New York, and I will discuss with them. No problem. Jim Lambert nodded. I will make a plan for you as soon as possible. Deal. After the discussion, Anton stayed in Los Angeles for a night, deeply felt the decadence of Hollywood, and soon returned to New York. Jim Lambert is worthy of being a well-known old producer. It only took him a few days to find the gold medal screenwriter who was famous for ghostwriting and had rich experience and negotiated the price. The screenwriter came to Anton. Anton thought about it, and his home was obviously not the place to discuss things, so he agreed to meet them at the Daily Bugle. Although he is no longer the editor-in-chief of the Daily Bugle, he is still the deputy editor-in-chief, and he has retained the largest editor-in-chief's office that originally belonged to him. This is the most appropriate place for creation. In recent days, while caring about Jim's progress, he has maintained his creative ability and refined the rough outline of Batman Begins with his vivid memory of the movie. However, some places still need to be revised by the screenwriter. Anton knows his ability. Besides, professional matters should be left to professionals. Although he will take over as the director of Batman Begins soon, Jim has already selected a group of assistant directors for him. Everyone knows how to shoot this movie. Bang bang. Someone knocked on the door of the office. Come in. Anton looked at the door lazily. A guy he didn't expect walked in. Eddie, what's the matter? Anton was very surprised. He originally thought that the person knocking on the door would be the gold medal screenwriter he had made an appointment with. Chapter 6. The Reluctant Eddie. Anton, I hesitated for a long time before deciding to come and see you. Eddie hesitated. There is something that has been in my heart for a long time, and I can't help but speak it out. Before this, do you know why I was fired from my last company? I heard that you offended a big shot. Anton shrugged. He walked over and pulled out a chair behind the desk, inviting him to sit down. After Eddie sat down, he asked again, do you want to know why I offended him? Let me hear your story. Anton returned to his old seat and crossed his legs. He looked at the nervous Eddie and smiled. Relax, no matter what you say, I will not fire you. I'm just a deputy editor-in-chief, and I don't have the power to fire you. You must know that you are the editor-in-chief. No matter what you want to say, please muster up your courage. Eddie was still nervous and said slowly, Carlton Drake, the boss of the Life Foundation. The reason why his pharmaceutical company has grown rapidly is that it uses homeless people on the street to test drugs and conduct illegal human experiments. His entire business empire is built on thousands of corpses who died with their eyes open. I pursued this issue during the interview and eventually angered him. Anton thoughtfully said, "You lost your job because of this, so you are unwilling to accept it and want to continue to pursue it?" "I don't know." Eddie's tone was hesitant, but with a hint of certainty. "I finally found another job, but as you said, my life has been messed up by him, and I'm unwilling to accept it. I will take time to discuss this matter with the old man." Anton pondered for a moment and said, "You go back to work first. I will give you an answer as soon as possible." Carlton Drake of the Life Foundation is a wealthy man. In terms of net worth, Dr. Drake, who is young, but has made great achievements in medicine, may be as rich as the wealth accumulated by Jonah Jameson over the years. If Eddie wants to investigate this matter, it is equivalent to the Daily Bugle declaring war on the Life Foundation. To be honest, from a personal perspective, Anton fully supports Eddie in exposing Carlton Drake, a scumbag. But it should be considered that the Daily Bugle does not belong to Anton, and he lacks the capital to be willful. Doing things without considering the consequences is immature. Maybe afterwards, Anton can give Eddie some support with his own strength, but from the position of the Daily Bugle, Jonah Jameson is the decision maker, and Anton must respect the old man's opinion. Okay. Eddie thought this was Anton's excuse, and could not hide his disappointment. He stood up and prepared to leave. "Wait, Eddie, personally, I support you, but you know, although the newspaper is my home, it is not mine." Seeing this, Anton added, "Don't worry, I will try my best to convince the old man." "I understand, thank you." Eddie felt the sincerity of this sentence and looked grateful. Seeing him walk away, Anton touched his chin, took out his mobile phone, called the old man, and reported the whole story. What Anton didn't expect was that Jonah Jameson not only didn't persuade him to forgive others, but laughed and asked Anton to tell Eddie to do his best to investigate. Anton was surprised that Jameson agreed without hesitation before he thought about how to persuade him. "Why?" he asked curiously. "Jonah, you should know better than me that investigating the Life Foundation is very risky. I heard that the Life Foundation has many secret activities. If we agree to Eddie's insistence on investigating, we may be threatened with force or even assassination from the Life Foundation." "Anton, New York is our territory, and the Life Foundation belongs to San Francisco. Believe me, the Life Foundation cannot reach into New York, and dare not reach into it." Jameson was quite tough. "As long as you want to do it, just do it." "Old man, I must change my stereotype of you. It turns out that you are really a retired newspaper editor, not the extremely stingy newspaper owner in my impression." Anton smiled. In addition to the role of a businessman, Jonah Jameson has also served as the editor-in-chief of the Daily Bugle for decades. As we all know, in addition to publishing gossip news, newspapers also bear the social responsibility of exposing the dark side of society and promoting positive energy. If it weren't for justice, how could Jonah Jameson repeat this trivial work day after day? If Jameson had invested this energy in other industries in recent years, his wealth would be at least several times higher than it is now. "You have impressed me, Anton." Jameson on the other end of the phone was relieved and happy, and smiled. "Whether you have solved this matter or not, you have already made up your mind to be the boss of a newspaper. If you want to compliment me, wait until the matter is resolved." Anton hung up the phone. Dong dong dong. Just as he was about to ask Eddie to come back to the office for a detailed discussion, there was another knock on the door. "The gold medal screenwriter has arrived." Anton immediately put Eddie's affairs aside and discussed the movie script with the screenwriter. For him, the Life Foundation is certainly important, but now, everything related to the movie is far more important than the Life Foundation. The gold medal screenwriter is a white man named Browning Toby, who comes from a poor family. Today's life is hard won, and Browning understands the importance of money better than anyone else. Therefore, he respects Anton, who gave him money. The two had a very pleasant exchange. Browning found that Anton was not a second-generation rich man who was uneducated. Many settings of Batman made him shine, and the plot was also in line with the public's aesthetic taste. His job was icing on the cake, not a timely help. "Please give me more of this kind of job that pays well and is easy to do," Browning called in his heart. "According to what I just said, Perfect the script as quickly as possible. Anton said, besides that, I just thought of another job that suits you. Please go ahead. Browning nodded. Write this story and promote it to the public in the form of a novel as the first step in promoting the movie. Anton said, as for the reward, you will get the part you deserve. Deal. Browning nodded decisively without hesitation. The story setting of Batman is already quite complete. This job is not that difficult, and the reward is higher than the market price, so he is very happy to reach a cooperation with Anton. I will fly to Los Angeles to meet Jim tomorrow. If you want to go back to Los Angeles, you can go with me. Anton nodded. Okay, I'll take my leave then. Browning was very good at reading people's expressions. He saw Anton's intention to see him off and left on his own accord. Anton looked out the window, where the golden sunset glowed and colored the clouds. He suddenly came to his senses. He didn't expect that he and Browning would end up talking to this point. He got up and went to the employee area, where he saw Betty, who had packed up her things and was ready to leave work. Hey, Betty, is Eddie off work? I don't know. Betty didn't look at him well, twisting her hips and disappearing from Anton's sight without looking back. Isn't it just that you didn't keep your word and didn't let you be the editor-in-chief? Women are too stingy. Anton touched his nose, feeling a little embarrassed. Anton, you're looking for me? Eddie just walked out of the office. Yes, do you have time to have a drink? It's at the bar not far downstairs. Anton invited. I have something to say to you. The short message from the signing site has been received. Everyone, invest quickly. It's pure profit now. In addition, I'm very busy these days and can't spare the time. I think I can update twice a day after signing the contract and changing my status. Please forgive me. Finally, please add it to your collection and recommend it. It is very important during the period of new book release. Chapter 7 Association. Bar. Anton, thank you. Eddie was a little drunk, but he was in high spirits, and his eyes seemed to be burning with fire. After hearing that Anton, on behalf of the Daily Bugle, agreed to his reopening of the investigation into the Life Foundation, he seemed to have changed into a different person, as if he had found the purpose of life again. You're welcome. I wish you success. Anton did not take credit for it, picked up the wine glass, and took a sip, revealing a disgusted expression. He did not like the taste of whiskey. By the way, there is one thing I want to remind you of. Anton put down the wine glass and reminded him, the Life Foundation has a great influence in San Francisco. Although the homeless incident shows that the Life Foundation violates the bottom line of humanity, it will at most cause trouble for the Life Foundation. With so many medical patents in hand, the vested interests will not give up the Life Foundation. As a former reporter, you should know this fact better than me. Eddie nodded silently. He restrained the excitement in his eyes and smiled bitterly, exposing the behavior of the Life Foundation, tarnishing its name, and causing trouble for Carl Tendrake. It would be best if he could be sent to prison. There is only so much I can do. Also, you can't go back to San Francisco. Anton continued. Eddie was a little surprised. He looked at Anton and opened his mouth, but said nothing. You're too obvious, Eddie. Anton said, remember, now you are not a reporter who shows up in public, but the editor-in-chief who controls the overall situation at the Daily Bugle. You must not go back to San Francisco to do frontline work. You and I know very well that, if you show up, you will immediately alert the Life Foundation and expose the fact that we are doing something unfavorable to the Life Foundation. The investigation of the Life Foundation cannot be carried out in public. Of course, in order to ensure the smooth progress of the investigation, in addition to Eddie not being able to leave New York, the internal staff of the newspaper will be allowed to be transferred by Eddie. First find evidence, expose the Life Foundation, and then take advantage of the victory to pursue. This is the safe process. I understand what you mean. Eddie became unhappy. After the Daily Bugle fires the first shot and arouses public discussion, there will be fewer restrictions. Anton said with a hint of meaning, don't worry, you can't hide by then. Okay. Eddie knew Anton's good intentions, and he was not a stubborn person who didn't consider other people's ideas at all, so he agreed seriously. That's it. Anton handed the bartender several large bills, including the money for the drinks and the tip, and then stood up. I have something to do in Los Angeles tomorrow, and I'll leave the Daily Bugle to you. Eddie watched Anton leave. On the way back, Anton thought about Eddie's experience. Eddie Brock, San Francisco, Life Foundation, was fired. These words made it hard for him not to think of the movie Venom in his previous life. After pondering for a moment, Anton took out his mobile phone, searched for the Life Foundation, and saw the news about the rocket crash. It happened not long ago. So, the symbiote has come to Earth? Anton frowned. Sure enough, the more you know, the more you think this world is extremely dangerous. The rocket crashed in eastern Malaysia. With the cooperation of many parties, the wreckage of the rocket is waiting to be dealt with. But Anton knew that the Life Foundation would not only deal with the wreckage. According to the plot, the Life Foundation at this time should be actively collecting the symbiotes that came to Earth with the rocket. The only difference is that Eddie came to New York from San Francisco. The butterfly flapped its wings, and the future may have changed. However, Anton firmly believed that no matter how it changed, the symbiote would not be able to stir up trouble on Earth. He understood the worldview of the Marvel world. Although the world he was in at this moment seemed to have integrated a lot of messy movies, there was one thing that Anton was 100% sure of: where there was Tony Stark, there was S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D., established after World War II, had experience in facing aliens since the 1990s. That incident also gave birth to a powerful superhero, Ms. Marvel, or call her Captain Marvel. With enough confidence, Anton understood that the symbiote would not destroy the order of the Earth. If the Earth was really so easy to be destroyed by these aliens, it would not be the turn of the symbiote at all. As early as the wave of the Kree army in the 1990s, it was completely finished. Facts have proved that among the countless life planets in the universe, the Earth is definitely a cheating player. After going over these things in his mind, Anton returned home. The retired old man was not there, and Anton was accustomed to it. The old man who suddenly started to enjoy life was no different from a husky that had run away from its reins. He could disappear at any time and anywhere. The next day, Anton brought the gold medal screenwriter Browning to Los Angeles. The airport pickup staff took them to the high-end residential area near Hollywood. In a high-end apartment, Anton and Browning finally met Jim Lambert, who had come late. "Anton, you're finally here." Jim got straight to the point and said to Anton, "The crew has almost finished preparing. The next step is to select the main roles. Do you have any suggestions? This is your job. I just hope to start work as soon as possible." Anton shrugged. He didn't care about the crew's preparations at all. He only cared about when the filming could start. After learning about Eddie Brock's story and the situation of the Life Foundation, he had a deeper understanding of the Marvel world. In short, there was a lack of security and inexplicable urgency. It's always good to get the movie done as soon as possible, achieve the goal, and exchange the Batman template. "Okay," Jim said regretfully, "the male lead has been basically confirmed, but I thought you had some other requirements for the female lead. After all, this is Hollywood." Anton opened his eyes wide. "Wait, casting today," Jim said. "Tomorrow, 7 or 8 female stars have been arranged. All of them are top beauties. Remember to call me." Anton immediately changed his position and said righteously, "I do have special requirements for the female lead. At least, she must be good looking and obedient, and her butt must be perky and her breasts must be big." Jim gave him a look of an experienced driver. Afterwards, Browning communicated with Jim about the script and promised to complete the first draft within 3 days before saying goodbye and leaving. Browning's home is in Los Angeles. This high-end residence is the place Jim prepared for Anton. It's not because Anton has no other residence in Los Angeles, but because it is close to Hollywood and convenient for work. "What about the props team?" Anton thought for a moment and said, "I have higher requirements for the costumes and props of this movie. The ones you sent me before were too stereotyped and did not meet my standards." He had a ready-made template here, so how could he look down on the stingy design of the props team? "No problem." Jim nodded. As an investor and director, Anton almost had the highest say in this movie. Producer Jim was serving Anton. There was no room for rebuttal on the issue of filming, and there was no need to refute. It was all work anyway. The money Jim got would not increase or decrease because of this. He just wanted a success. In the next few days, Anton worked like a machine, working day and night, and finally preliminarily determined the props and the characters in the movie. The day before the shooting started, Anton received a budget sheet. 110 million. Anton's mouth twitched. This was 10 million higher than the investment he and Tony Stark agreed on. But recalling Nolan's investment in Batman Begins in his previous life, he knew that Jim at least did not fool him. In addition, the technological level of this world is only higher than that of the previous life, and all kinds of folk science and black technology are even at the level that people could only dream of in their previous lives. This budget is completely within the normal range. Anton silently signed the list and mortgaged all his assets to raise 110 million yuan. Finally, the filming of the movie started. Anton was ambitious and had great ambitions. He directed his dozen assistant directors and prepared to make a big move. At the same time, several reporters who were sent by Eddie to San Francisco to secretly investigate the Life Foundation also sent back some specific information to Eddie. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8 Tricky. After reading the information sent back by his reporters, Eddie frowned and looked unhappy. The investigation was more difficult than he had imagined. The Life Foundation originally only recruited homeless people on the streets of San Francisco and tricked them into signing agreements that they could not understand to promote human drug experiments. Now, Eddie learned from the information sent back by his family that the Life Foundation had joined forces with the government to form a San Francisco Homeless Association. The association was fully funded by the Life Foundation, and Colton Drake served as the honorary president. They built a huge cage for the homeless in the most remote corner of San Francisco where no one wanted to go. A gathering place for homeless people called Homeless Home. Under the leadership of the Life Foundation, the Homeless Home strictly controls the entry and exit and actions of homeless people. The homeless people driven here by the San Francisco city government have restricted entry and exit and lose their freedom of movement, which is equivalent to going to jail to some extent. It is difficult for the reporter sent by the Daily Bugle to investigate in San Francisco to sneak in under the supervision of the Homeless Association, let alone further investigate intelligence. After a few days, there were only a few pieces of useful information. Even if these few pieces of useful information were released, it would not be able to shake the foundation of the Life Foundation. The attack was not painful and had no killing power. In the absence of direct evidence, it was impossible to deal a heavy blow to the Life Foundation. Even if the Daily Bugle exposed the actions of the Life Foundation, it would be useless. Instead, it would damage the credibility that the Daily Bugle had accumulated over the years. Carlton Drake. Eddie gritted his teeth. What a cunning opponent. Not long after the homeless shelter was implemented in San Francisco, 90% of the homeless in San Francisco had been forcibly driven to the homeless shelter by the San Francisco municipal government. The remaining 10% either left San Francisco or were always vigilant and avoided the patrolling police on the roadside. Today, there are almost no traces of homeless people on the streets of San Francisco. The urban environment has been purified as never before. The San Francisco municipal government and the Life Foundation have been well received by the citizens. Senior officials of the municipal government took this opportunity to obtain a large amount of political donations from the Life Foundation. The Life Foundation also has a large amount of resources for human experiments. Since the Homeless Association is under the jurisdiction of the Life Foundation, no one has intervened. Killing several birds with one stone, the operation is perfect. Editor-in-Chief, the investigation has encountered a bottleneck, and we don't know where to start. A young voice sounded on the other side of the phone that Eddie answered. He said distressedly, the Life Foundation's gang patrols every hour, and the streets of the homeless shelter are full of cameras. Even if we are willing to take the risk to sneak in, we can't get in. After a pause, the young voice said, there is only one way now. We can bring micro cameras and pretend to be homeless people to sneak in. As long as we can capture the Life Foundation signing an agreement with the homeless, or even use the homeless people for human experiments, the Life Foundation will have no way to deny it. No, it's too dangerous. Eddie rejected this suggestion and pondered. We can try another direction. Since there is no flaw from the outside, let's start from their inside. Inside? The young voice suddenly realized. Good idea, let's act immediately. Eddie hurriedly reminded. Wait, Phil, don't rush, so as not to alert the enemy. Understood. Phil Urich nodded and vowed. Editor-in-chief, we won't let you down. On the other side, Anton started filming the movie. It was not smooth at first. The running in of the actors, props, lighting, and group performances made him headache. Fortunately, he had foresight and invited more than a dozen professional assistant directors. The crew gradually got on the right track. After seeing the talents of his assistant directors, Anton simply delegated power to conduct dual line shooting. He was responsible for shooting the male protagonist's plot, leaving to assistant directors to help him dispatch the crew and the camera, while the film's corners and supporting roles were all handed over to the remaining reliable assistant directors. Everything was done to complete the movie as soon as possible. The filming of a movie is a very trivial and complicated process. Anton looked at the schedule. The experienced Jim planned to complete the shooting plan in 120 days. The post-production special effects plan was completed within 90 days and the publicity was promoted simultaneously, and then 15 days were spent on editing and finally released. The whole cycle was about 200 days. For a special effects blockbuster, this is a very short time. But Anton was not satisfied. According to this cycle, he had to wait at least half a year to exchange for the basic template of Batman. It was too painful. Therefore, without affecting the quality of the movie, Anton rushed to catch up as much as possible. After all, Anton's mind was full of the film, and there were some redundant and useless shots that were not necessary to shoot at all. What is keeping one or two? For Anton, it is a waste of life. He plans to get everything done within 3 months. Jim noticed something was wrong and thought Anton was messing around. Unable to bear it any longer, he had a big fight with him. But Anton insisted on doing so, and Jim had no choice. As an investor and director, the former has such a say. Therefore, Jim turned a blind eye and basically gave up control of the crew and let Anton do what he wanted. Under such circumstances, Anton only took 1 month to complete nearly half of the progress. At Anton's strong request, the special effects department also joined the group in advance and operated simultaneously. The possibility of being released within 3 months is infinitely expanded. Seeing this, almost no one in the crew had confidence in the results of the film, including the assistant director and the male and female protagonists. In their opinion, Anton was a completely unprofessional rich second generation. The clumsiness when he first started shooting was still vivid in his mind. Although he now looks more skilled than a newcomer, his actions are still not reassuring. Some role players even regretted participating in this film. Anton ignored the rumors in the crew. Anyway, these people only dared to complain privately. No one dared to say these words in front of him, the director who controlled the most power in the crew. Even the heroine who played Rachel, who was closest to him, only dared to cry at night every day. Today's shooting is over, and we will gather at 7 o'clock tomorrow, Anton announced. Then, he rejected the heroine's request to discuss the script, and returned to the room with his old waist sore from sitting for a long time. He had a missed call on his mobile phone, which belonged to the screenwriter Browning. So he called him. Anton, the novel of Batman Begins has been completed. Browning answered the channel. The manuscript has been sent to your email. Please check it. If you need to modify it, please contact me at any time. Okay, thank you for your hard work. After Anton hung up, he opened his email and quickly read the original text, which was not long. He was very satisfied after reading it. Browning is worthy of being a gold medal screenwriter who makes a living with words. Then, he called Eddie. Eddie picked up the phone immediately. Anton, what can I do for you? Eddie's tired voice came from the other end of the line. I sent a novel to your email. Remember, find a section in the Daily Bugle to publish it as quickly as possible and serialize it according to a 60-day cycle. Anton said in an imperative tone. This is related to the promotion of my movie, and you must do your best. Don't worry. Eddie gave him an affirmative answer. It's not a difficult task. Very good. Anton changed the subject and asked, your voice sounds wrong. Tell me, how many days have you not slept? As far as I know, the workload of the Daily Bugle should not cause you to become like this. Are you in trouble in San Francisco? Chapter 9. Eddie loses contact. The Life Foundation is more cunning than we thought. Eddie told Anton the details, feeling helpless, no matter whether it is external or internal. They have done enough protection measures, and we can't find any loopholes. For more than a month, haven't we gained anything? Anton was surprised. When I watched movies in my previous life, I didn't think that the Life Foundation was so difficult to deal with. Sure enough, we can't just look at the real situation today with the plot of the movie. Not really. Eddie said, we have received accurate information from some researchers. Recently, the Life Foundation seems to be preparing to conduct some mysterious experiments. There is a huge demand for human bodies in the experiments, and they plan to increase the investment in the experiments. But we can't enter the homeless home, and we can't find any definite evidence that the Life Foundation has violated the bottom line of human morality. There is nothing we can do about them, unless... Anton narrowed his eyes and said, unless, pretend to be a homeless person and sneak into the homeless home, to find a breakthrough again. Yes. Eddie on the other side of the phone hesitated. Pretending to be a homeless person is very risky. Especially, he let his men take the risk to sneak in, but he did nothing in New York. With the status and power of the Life Foundation in San Francisco, once they reveal their identity as reporters, it is basically equivalent to saying goodbye to this world. The biggest possibility is that he will become a human experiment subject of the Life Foundation and die. Not only will it not help him, but it will contribute to the enemy. This made Eddie extremely anxious, and he dared not make a decision easily. Gradually, an idea came to his mind. Mysterious experiment? Anton could conclude that the Life Foundation had begun research on symbiotes. With Carlton Drake's obsession with symbiotes, as long as there were phased results, he would most likely quickly degenerate into a supervillain. However, this was not so deeply involved with Anton. Drake was in San Francisco, and he was filming a movie in Los Angeles at this time, and his living circle was in New York. In this unique world, the isolation between cities is like the opposition between countries, and each has its own gangs and territories. The Life Foundation wanted to cross the territory to fight people, but it was still a little lacking in ability. Of course, after the two sides completely tore their faces, it was another situation. Anton thought for a moment and asked, will bribing the Life Foundation employees not work? The employees are clueless. As for the top management, Drake has the upper hand. That scumbag even threatens the families of those senior researchers. Eddie told him frankly, we can't move forward. After a pause, he spoke seriously and said, Anton, I have to go to San Francisco. I'm unwilling to let Drake, a scumbag, get away with it. In that case, I wish you good luck. Faced with Eddie's request, Anton did not refuse. The investigation was deadlocked, and Eddie was willing to take the risk to return to San Francisco. Anton chose to respect his decision. Eddie's unwillingness was completely within his expectations. As for giving up, Anton also felt it was inappropriate. He had promised Jameson that he would push forward this matter. If he gave up in the face of a little difficulty, he would not only fail Eddie's trust, but also Jameson's expectations of him. Think about it carefully. Eddie is the protagonist of this plot. In other words, he is the son of luck. It must not be so easy to fail. Putting this thought aside, Anton could not help but remind him, before going to San Francisco, remember to arrange your work, especially my novel. Don't worry, I will take care of it. Eddie looked grateful and still gave a positive answer. At the most depraved and helpless time, it was the Daily Bugle that gave him a job. At the same time, facing the boss who trusted him so much, Eddie made up his mind to handle this job in the most perfect way. But Anton didn't think so much. The non-stop filming consumed a lot of his energy, and he fell asleep soon after hanging up the phone. In a blink of an eye, another half a month passed. The filming of the movie was unexpectedly fast, and the post-processing of special effects also began to advance rapidly under Anton's supervision, and everything was completely on track. The crew gradually changed their views on Anton. They watched the first half hour of the content edited by Anton. It was amazing. The story was unexpectedly smooth. In order to get the movie done as soon as possible, Anton cancelled some plans for filming locations and chose to show it in a tricky or special effect way. The shooting of the outdoor locations was almost all handed over to the assistant director, which accelerated the progress again. It took only nearly 50 days to complete 2/3 of the shooting plan. This made Jim, who came to the crew from time to time, even more annoyed, and he became more and more convinced that he was careless and stepped on a big bit. Anton still didn't bother to pay attention. After the shooting ended that day, he returned to the room, feeling quite worried. Eddie lost contact. Since Eddie arrived in San Francisco more than half a month ago, every 2 days, Eddie would call him, both to report safety and to report the situation. But a week ago, Eddie had no news after sneaking into the homeless home. Something happened. Anton was upset. Although Eddie's life and death did not seem to affect him, Eddie's return to San Francisco was inseparable from him after all. First of all, he agreed to Eddie's risky request. Secondly, he admired Eddie very much. A person who can be righteous and stick to the bottom line is hard not to be favored by others. After pondering for a moment, he took out his mobile phone and dialed an unfamiliar number. When Eddie and Anton last contacted, before he entered the homeless shelter, Eddie left him a phone number. He said it belonged to a young reporter he had sent to San Francisco. Philuric. This guy was also an employee of the Daily Bugle. Hello. A young voice came from the other end of the phone. Philuric? Anton said. I'm Anton. Anton from the Daily Bugle. Ah. Phil sounded very nervous. Of course he had heard of Anton. Although he was only an associate editor, his actual status was about the same as that of the newspaper owner. He was a big shot who could fire him with just one word and make him unable to survive in New York. Phil said repeatedly, "Boss, hello, this is Philuric. How is the situation recently?" Anton got straight to the point and said directly, "Eddie hasn't contacted me for a long time. Did something happen to him?" "No, I don't know." Phil stammered. "There seems to be an information blocker in the homeless shelter. We have completely lost contact with Editor-in-Chief Eddie and don't know how he is doing in there. However, we bribed the security guard of the Homeless Association and he told us that no one from the Life Foundation has come to the homeless shelter recently. We guess that Editor-in-Chief Eddie should be safe so far." At the end of the words, his voice lowered and he lacked confidence. "So, when the people from the Life Foundation come to the homeless shelter, he may not be safe, right?" Anton's face was grim, and he questioned word by word. Phil hesitated and didn't dare to agree. Chapter 10 The Fate of Workers. Shit. Anton couldn't help but curse, suppressing his anger and patiently admonishing, "You must find a way to find out Eddie's situation, and it's best to find a chance to bring him out, understand?" "Got it, we will do it." Phil quickly agreed, his tone trembling a little. He once again felt the importance of this investigation and realized how much Eddie had sacrificed by not letting him sneak into the homeless shelter, but choosing to do it himself. In the past few days when Eddie was out of contact, Phil had been feeling guilty. He believed that, if he had not suggested to Eddie to sneak into the homeless shelter, Eddie would not have risked returning to San Francisco. "Mr. Anton, please rest assured, I will do my best to rescue Editor-in-Chief Eddie," Phil assured again. Hearing the boy's determination, Anton encouraged him a few words and hung up the phone. After learning about the situation, he was filled with lingering boredom, and thinking that the Batman novel had been published, he simply called Betty. Betty answered in seconds. "Anton, I'm off work," she complained helplessly. "Workers have to learn to accept the reality of overtime." Anton comforted Betty, showing his awareness as a boss, and then asked, "How is the novel going?" "About 1/3 of the content has been serialized in the newspaper. It looks good now. Some readers have already sent letters to the newspaper, hoping that more words can be serialized every day." Betty entered the working state and reported, affected by the novel, the daily sales of the newspaper have increased. After a pause, she said, "By the way, as far as I know, pirated content of the novel has appeared on the internet. Do we need to warn them? The more pirated content, the better. This is a good thing." Anton smiled and said, However, you can open a new section on the official website of the Daily Bugle to realize the content of the novel. Let the people in the technical department develop it quickly. It's not difficult. Understood. Betty nodded, then asked, anything else? Arrange some water army. I need this novel to become popular as soon as possible. Anton suddenly had an idea and said, connect the protagonist of Batman, Bruce Wayne, with Tony Stark, and seize this hotspot for hype. What? Betty was surprised. Are you sure you won't anger that playboy? Don't worry, I'll take care of it if anything goes wrong. Anton was not shy and brazenly said, Batman's movie is funded by Tony Stark. He won't care about this little detail. We are making money for him. Okay, I'll arrange it right away. Betty was relieved and acted decisively. After hanging up, Anton checked Batman's fan value and got a very intuitive number. 32,145. It's a bit of a headache. The popularity difference is too big. Fortunately, the system is relaxed, and the novice gift package gave the main template hero a fracture. Otherwise the full 50 million fan value would really take a lot of time and energy to complete 9.98 million. Now it seems that there is only a difference of more than 9.94 million. Since the first step has been taken, the next 99 steps will wait for the movie to be released to form a hotspot, and the target task will definitely be completed quickly. Anton's eyes were hot. If he could exchange for Batman's armor template, he would not be so passive when facing the Life Foundation. At this moment, he felt very much like Eddie before he went to San Francisco. This feeling of sitting in the safe zone and waiting for news and doing nothing was an incomparable torture. San Francisco. Homeless home. Eddie's face was covered with dirt and he was stinking. He curled up in a corner and looked around timidly. This was a group of people who were like zombies, lifeless and hopeless. The anger was surging, as if it was about to burst through his chest. After entering the homeless home for so long, he had the most intuitive understanding of the situation inside the homeless home. It was not as perfect as the Life Foundation said in the press conference and news reports. On the contrary, the homeless here had no dignity. The San Francisco city government treated this place as a social garbage dump, and no one cared about it since it was built. The Life Foundation treated this place as a pig farm. From time to time, a truck came to trick the homeless into signing a volunteer agreement, and then dragged them onto the truck and took them away, and no one ever came back. The staff said that these people have returned to normal life. Eddie sneered. He knew very well the ending of these people. It was nothing more than becoming a human experiment subject of the Life Foundation, and even the most basic freedom could not be guaranteed. Every day, he was locked in a cage isolated by transparent glass, and was studied like a rare animal. Carlton Drake. After seeing all this, Eddie's perception of Drake fell to the lowest point. He wanted to expose all of Drake's crimes immediately. The video materials about the homeless house had been recorded by the miniature camera he carried with him. However, the smart Carlton Drake had foresight. This area was covered by dense wireless signal jammers and lacked line support. Eddie could not get in touch with the outside world, and the video materials naturally could not be transmitted. If the information about the homeless house can be transmitted, it will definitely deal a heavy blow to the Life Foundation. Eddie thought, at that time, it is not impossible to follow the clues and catch evidence of the Life Foundation's illegal human experiments. He racked his brains to think about how to pass on the information. Boom. Suddenly, a truck drove down the street. There were armed security guards on the truck, and their uniforms were completely different from those of the Homeless Association. Eddie's pupils shrank. He knew that this truck belonged to the Life Foundation. Undoubtedly, the security guards on it were also from the Life Foundation. They need more human test subjects again. Eddie's heartbeat quickened. He had an exciting idea. Why not just get in one step and sneak into the Life Foundation directly? After thinking for a moment, a fine layer of cold sweat appeared on his forehead. Eddie swallowed his saliva, mustered up his courage, and walked towards the truck. Soon, after finding enough volunteers, the truck carried the homeless people away from the homeless home. Beep beep. Outside the homeless home, the alarm on Phil's body sounded. He was ecstatic and quickly took out his mobile phone. On the screen, a red dot belonging to the GPS positioning appeared and kept moving. This was the signal source on Eddie's body. He hurriedly got in the car, stepped on the accelerator, chased the signal source, and sped away. A moment later, Phil, who was speeding all the way, saw the Life Foundation truck from a distance and became nervous again. He guessed that Eddie was in the truck, and he also knew that the Life Foundation security personnel would not give him any chance to take Eddie away. He suddenly had an idea and simply stepped on the accelerator again. Bang! Exclamation mark. The car rear-ended the truck. Shit. The burly driver stopped the car, came to Phil, grabbed his collar, and angrily said, "Boy, how do you drive?" I'm sorry, I didn't mean it." Compared with the driver, Phil was like a little chicken. He trembled and said, "I can pay you all the money I have on me, please don't be so rude." Then, he prepared to slowly approach the rear of the truck. There was an open window for ventilation. Eddie saw Phil and felt relieved. He threw the hidden camera out of the window without leaving a trace. Hey. Suddenly, another security guard came forward to check the situation. "Business is more important. Let's go." The man glanced at Phil, didn't take it seriously, and patted the driver on the shoulder. "You're lucky." The driver nodded, loosened his collar, said something impatiently, turned around and left, not giving Phil any chance to operate. Boom. The truck released an unpleasant exhaust gas, spraying it on Phil's face. Phil looked blank. He didn't seize the opportunity, and Eddie was taken away. Bang bang! Exclamation mark. Damn it. Sitting back in the car, he slapped the steering wheel hard. Phil hated his cowardice. Suddenly he glanced out of the corner of his eye. He was stunned. He found that the signal source did not move. Impossible. The truck had obviously gone far away. How could the signal source still overlap with himself? An idea came to his mind. He hurriedly got out of the car, found the hidden camera that Eddie had thrown out, took out the memory card, and was extremely excited. It's saved. Eddie is saved. Phil couldn't help but admire Eddie's wit and called Anton in a hurry. "Please collect. Please recommend. There has been no movement in the comments recently. Is anyone really reading the book? I can update twice a day after I finish my work tomorrow. Newbie, please support me." Exclamation mark. Chapter 11. The war has begun. What? Anton was furious. "You said Eddie was taken away by the Life Foundation?" Phil could feel Anton's anger through the screen. But with the experience just now, he understood the meaning of courage and said seriously, "Before Eddie was taken away, he left video materials in the homeless home." "Video materials?" Anton frowned and said bluntly, "Tell me what's going on." Then, after listening to Phil's explanation, he quickly calmed down. "Send the video materials back," Anton instructed. "As for you, Phil, you stay in San Francisco for the time being, keep an eye on the Life Foundation, and continue to report to me if there is any situation." "Understood." Phil nodded. A few minutes later, Anton received the video sent back by Phil and browsed it as quickly as possible. His face was very ugly. The most real picture gave him the most intuitive impact. He could even imagine what Eddie looked like among this group of homeless people. Homeless house. "Carlton Drake, I thought I had thought highly of you, but I didn't expect you to be more ruthless than I thought. Eddie, great job. Next, it's up to me," Anton said silently. Then he immediately booked a flight back to New York in the early morning. Before he left, he found the assistant in the crew and called a dozen assistant directors and actors, including other staff. He held a general meeting. At the meeting, Anton made it clear that he had something to do and would leave the crew. Since the filming has entered the final stage, these people can complete the remaining work independently even without him. It is worth mentioning that at this time, more than half a month has passed since the day when Eddie first lost contact. In this half month, the progress of the film has jumped forward a lot. Now the remaining shooting plan is basically a supplement of scraps. Even the plot related to the male protagonist Batman Bruce Wayne, only a very small part is left to be filmed. Anton has the confidence to be a hands-off boss. When he left the crew, the assistant directors saw him off respectfully and all showed bright smiles. In contrast, they made a solemn promise to Anton that they would complete all the filming within 20 days. At the same time, the content of the special effects of the movie was still progressing steadily, with the design drafts made by Anton. To assist the special effects artist, Anton no longer needed to pay too much attention to the special effects content. He just had to wait for the film to be completed and then add it in. In summary, he flew to New York immediately after giving the order. The next morning, Jim learned that Anton had returned to New York and became a hands-off boss. He was so angry that he blew his beard and glared. But he still had no way to deal with Anton, the investor and director. The only thing he could do was to help Anton keep an eye on the crew to prevent anyone from taking advantage of the situation. Arrived in New York in the early morning, Betty waited outside the airport for a long time. She saw Anton from a distance. His delicate face was as cold as ice, and he didn't look good to his boss. No one would be happy to be woken up at the airport to pick someone up in the early morning. Not to mention, this person is your boss. Betty, I'm your boss after all. Can you give me a smile? Sitting on the passenger seat of the BMW, Anton tilted his head to look at Betty and couldn't help saying, don't forget, who paid you for your salary that exceeds 90% of your peers. Betty snorted. Strictly speaking, the newspaper belongs to Jonah Jameson, not Anton Jameson. We are all Jamesons, so the newspaper is mine. Isn't that natural? After a moment, seeing that the car was about to arrive at the office building of the Daily Bugle, Anton smiled and said, there should be a lot of people who feel the same way as you do now. What do you mean? Betty looked puzzled. After parking the car, she followed Anton into the newspaper office and suddenly understood what Anton said. The office area of the Daily Bugle was bright at this time. The lights were shining, just like daylight. All employees were sitting at their workstations, even the interns. Most of them looked impatient and very irritated. Anton, what are you doing? Betty had an inexplicable premonition in her heart, as if something big was going to happen. She had never experienced such a scene before. Not only Betty, but other employees of the Daily Bugle were very confused. Of course, seeing all the employees being called back to work by Anton in the early hours of the morning, they suddenly felt the same as Betty. I'm afraid something big is going to happen. I called you all here today because I want to announce something. Anton's tone was calm, without any emotion. The front page of tomorrow's newspaper will be invalid. Then, he spoke without question. As he spoke, he turned on the public projector and projected the video materials he brought with him onto the wall. Everyone was shocked when they heard it. Someone cursed. Shit. Anton, do you know what you are talking about? Realizing that the video Anton was projecting at this time would be the new front page of the Daily Bugle tomorrow, there was no time to vent their resentment. Including him, everyone stared at the flashing picture without blinking. As you can see, this will be the front page tomorrow. After Anton finished speaking, he looked around with a sharp gaze. No one dared to look him in the eye. After a while, these people's faces were uncertain and their brows were furrowed. Someone opened his mouth, not knowing what to say. Where is this? After a while, Betty asked. Suddenly, she seemed to understand something and said, this is Eddie's field mission. Eddie, this was taken by Eddie? That's right, Editor-in-Chief Eddie has just arrived, and he is out on field work. Who else could it be except him? Could it be those interns who know nothing? Everyone's reaction was surprisingly consistent. Eddie went out on field work a few days after he came to the Bugle Daily. He didn't come back for almost a month, and no one knew about it. If the newspaper hadn't issued a notice, everyone would even think that Eddie had offended the boss and ran away, or that he had offended the young boss Anton because of his work and was directly fired. Of course, what they said was even more incomprehensible was that Eddie was the editor-in-chief of the Bugle Daily. Generally speaking, the editor-in-chief sits in the office drinking tea and doing command work. How could he go deep into the front line? But thinking of Eddie's original identity, everyone suddenly realized, in terms of fieldwork and professional ability, perhaps no one here can compare to Eddie. After working as a reporter for so many years, he was directly promoted to editor-in-chief by the always picky Jonah Jameson. You can imagine how good Eddie is. If he hadn't offended Carl and Rake in San Francisco and couldn't make it, with Eddie's ability, he would have a foothold, no matter where he was, and would have lived well. The scenes in the video are very clear. I don't need to explain too much. Anton said, this is a scandal involving the Life Foundation, the one in San Francisco, the one that has a grudge against Eddie. They even signed an invalid human experiment volunteer agreement in private and murdered the homeless on the street. Eddie lost his job and was banned by the industry just because he wanted to expose Drake. However, Eddie sneaked into the homeless home to shoot this video and has now been taken away by the Life Foundation. In order to ensure his safety, we must release these materials as soon as possible, detonate public opinion, and make them unable to take care of themselves and dare not murder volunteers again. So, listen to me and give up tomorrow's front page. He spoke slowly, emphasizing each word. From this moment on, our Daily Bugle and the Life Foundation have gone to war. Chapter 12 News Fermentation. In the busy process, time always flies by imperceptibly. For the battle-hardened Trumpet Daily, it is not often that they catch such a fat sheep as the Life Foundation. This is a big business. It's time to rush for a wave of KPIs and wait for the year-end bonus. Everyone is very motivated. Due to the change of the front page of the newspaper, everything has to be redesigned. Moreover, Anton also said that he would use video materials to trigger social discussions as soon as possible. Time is very tight. Fortunately, the newspaper is usually finalized at night, printed in the middle of the night, and delivered to the distribution point in the early morning. Canceling the original front page manuscript one day in advance is almost no loss. At most it will make the original editor unhappy. However, in front of big news and bonuses, all unhappiness has to give way. How is it? Anton looked at the tired Betty without any sympathy. He asked, is everything arranged? Yes. Betty was very busy today, but Anton just moved his lips, which made her hate it. The boss's life is so boring. Anton nodded. Then we should upload the video on our official website as soon as possible and arrange for the internet trolls to warm up online. Whether it is Twitter, Facebook, video websites, or major forums, I want to see our people in action. No problem, I won't let you down. Betty was very confident. In the past 2 years of work, she was much more familiar with the routine operation of newspapers to hype hot topics than Anton. By the way, send an email to the official email address of the Life Foundation now, warning them to immediately stop illegal experiments on human volunteers. Anton did not forget Eddie and said with a headache, you know, this is the only way we can ensure Eddie's safety. First expose the situation of the homeless home. With video materials, the evidence is irrefutable, and the Life Foundation will be immediately condemned by public opinion. At that time, it will be exposed that the Life Foundation has been conducting illegal and illegal human experiments, breaking the bottom line of human morality. Even if there is no evidence, it can make the Life Foundation afraid to act rashly. The Life Foundation will be in a dilemma. In order to calm the pressure of public opinion, the San Francisco municipal government will most likely launch an investigation into the Life Foundation. This will give a certain chance of preserving the homeless volunteers who are caught in the experimental base. The worst case scenario is that the Life Foundation will deal with the homeless volunteers in order to destroy all evidence. However, the fact that the Life Foundation recruits homeless volunteers is not a secret. The secret is that the Life Foundation's violations of human moral bottom line are unknown. The previous traces cannot be erased, and doing so is equivalent to self-destruction. Carlton Drake is a smart man and should not do such a stupid thing. Eddie, I can only wish you good luck next. Anton sighed. So far, this is the only thing he can do for Eddie. At least at this stage, being able to maintain the status quo is already the best option. The rest is to deal with it as it happens. While the staff of the Daily Bugle uploaded the news step by step and waited for the news to ferment, the Life Foundation received an email from the Daily Bugle with several photos of the interior of the homeless home attached. The sender signed the name of Eddie Brock deliberately. This was also a way to confuse the Life Foundation and hide the truth from the public, so as to avoid exposing Eddie to Carlton Drake in advance. The staff who received the letter were shocked, reported it to higher authorities. Carlton Drake received the news with a very ugly face. Bang! Exclamation mark. What's going on? Didn't I ask you to keep an eye on the homeless shelter? How did this Eddie Brock get the photos? He smashed the ashtray beside him and glared at the senior assistant in front of him. The senior assistant, who was dressed in a suit and had an elite temperament, was now dejected and shaking like a quail. "Boss, I don't know where they got the photos. I just learned that everything is normal at the homeless shelter and there is no sign of anyone sneaking in." The assistant swallowed his saliva and said tremblingly, "I guess they may have sneaked in disguised as homeless people. Go investigate all the homeless people in the homeless shelter and compare the information. If you find that person, you know what to do." Drake took a few deep breaths and said in a cold tone, "I understand." The assistant nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. "What did the Daily Bugle say?" Drake asked. "Besides this email, did Eddie Brock send any other messages? For example, how much money does he want before he is willing to hand over all the photos to us without any reservations?" No. The assistant shook his head. He opened his mouth and was about to say something. Bang! The door of the office was opened by another person. This is the head of the publicity department of the Life Foundation, who has strong personal abilities. It was this person who turned the public opinion from bad to good in the rocket crash of the Life Foundation, and Drake valued him deeply. But at this time, this person looked extremely anxious and broke into the office without knocking on the door. "Mr. Drake, something happened." After saying that, he even felt that it was not specific enough and added in a deep voice, "Something big happened." Seeing this, Carlton Drake seemed to have expected something, and his face instantly became as ugly as water. His face, which was originally unhappy, immediately became as ugly as a dead person. It was just as Drake thought. The contents of the email sent by the Daily Bugle to the Life Foundation have been completely exposed on the internet. The contents that were not in the email are all available online. In addition, there is an introduction to the Life Foundation, and, irony, what made him even more angry was that the photos he received now were just screenshots from the video content. What was circulating on the internet was not a static photo at all, but a dynamic video. The evidence is as strong as a mountain. Now I don't even know how to refute it. The head of the publicity department, who has experienced many battles, suddenly felt a little helpless. In the video, the managers with the Life Foundation logo were rampant in the homeless shelter, beating and scolding the homeless. The helpless and self-deprecating experience of the homeless deeply aroused the sympathy of netizens. Information about the homeless shelter was quickly disclosed by those with ulterior motives. The homeless shelter itself is a non-profit organization, and when the Life Foundation cooperated with the San Francisco city government before, it harvested a lot of goodwill from San Francisco citizens in the name of public welfare, and many people were quite impressed by this name. At this time, seeing the real situation, these people were instantly furious. They felt like monkeys, letting the Life Foundation and the San Francisco city government play tricks on them. There are water troops hyping up this topic. Carlton Drake flipped through the comments. He saw obvious traces of water troops on major forums, video sites, Twitter and Facebook. Go check. He gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with anger. Find the source of the water troops for me. I want the person hiding behind to pay the price. What about the Daily Bugle? The head of the publicity department hesitated. He glanced at his assistant, who didn't even dare to look at him. Talk to them through the relationship with the upper class in New York. No matter what conditions they offer, we must not let the situation continue to deteriorate. Drake said coldly. Also, Eddie Brock, I don't want to see this person again. Get rid of him. Understood. The head of the publicity department nodded. The contract has arrived in Shanghai. It is estimated that it will be signed on Monday and changed to the contract status on Tuesday. Those who haven't invested yet should do it as soon as possible. You can make a lot of money now. Good night, friends. Chapter 13 Public Opinion Carnival. The head of the publicity department of the Life Foundation is taking action. He knows that the scandal is irreversible, and he only hopes to minimize the damage caused to the Life Foundation by this scandal. However, neither he nor Carlton Drake expected that the netizens who took up their keyboards and attacked in the virtual world would be more fierce and faster than he expected. In just a few hours, netizens united and left messages on the official website of the San Francisco city government. Even the message board of the White House official website instantly added thousands of messages related to homeless people, demanding that the White House order a thorough investigation of this incident. At the same time, a bunch of citizens who have long been dissatisfied with the Life Foundation and are willing to cause trouble for the San Francisco city government have united to put pressure on the San Francisco city government. The Daily Bugle. Anton sat in the office, staring at the various rumors on the computer screen, with a strange look on his face. The situation is a little out of control. The public opinion on the internet fermented rapidly, and the situation of the homeless home has covered most websites, as if it has become a carnival for netizens to sacrifice. The Life Foundation is the sacrifice. With the ability of the Daily Bugle, although it can stir up this topic, the explosion of heat to this extent is far beyond Anton's expectations. Anton vaguely sensed that it was not only the Daily Bugle that targeted the Life Foundation. The Daily Bugle was just the one who flipped the table. There were many behind the scenes manipulators who were secretly working hard and fanning the flames. These old shady people who followed quietly, without any notice, and without any martial ethics, have tacitly united with the Daily Bugle to surround the Life Foundation. If you think about it carefully, it is reasonable. The Life Foundation has only been rising for a short time, and it also holds many new pharmaceutical patents. Under the conflict of interests, it is bound to attract the envy of many peers. It is normal in life to be jealous of others. Even if there is no hatred between each other, there are countless people who are happy with the fate of the Life Foundation. The Life Foundation is a big cake. Its collapse will bring countless people the opportunity to grab the cake. And the Daily Bugle, headed by Anton, is the one who holds the cutlery and cuts the cake first. I see, this is what happened. He was treated as a knife by someone. Anton touched his chin and said to himself, from the rocket crash, we can see that these old perverts covet the Life Foundation. Otherwise, Carlton Drake would not be in a hurry to attend various interviews and talk shows to stabilize the company's situation. This is completely a warning to those old perverts. But I'm going to disappoint you this time, Drake. He smiled. Da-da-da. Betty stepped on her high heels and twisted her hips to come to Anton. Today's newspaper sales are 3 times the average sales of last month. It seems that many people are waiting for us to continue to expose the news due to the influence of online public opinion. She looked excited and reported her work. People from the Life Foundation just contacted us, hoping that we can remain silent in the future, and it is best to sever the relationship between the Life Foundation and the homeless house. For this, they are willing to pay a hush money of $100 million US. $100 million US? Anton was surprised and said with emotion, it's really generous. Also, they have an additional condition. Betty added, fire Eddie Brock. If we want $100 million US, then this condition must be implemented. Let them eat shit. Anton was not polite and sneered, since he knew that the Life Foundation was facing not only his family at the moment, but also the encirclement and suppression of one or even several old bastards. Anton was no longer so concerned about the counterattack of the Life Foundation. What he wanted now was just to rescue Eddie, who was imprisoned through some means. It's time to add fuel to the fire. Anton looked at Betty and smiled again. You know what I mean. Of course. Betty nodded seriously. On the other side, in San Francisco, Phil received Anton's order and invited 2 people to put up banners on the street. Dignity is priceless. Boycott Life Foundation. Tear down the homeless home. Homeless people are also human beings, not captive beasts. He organized a march. Many people on the street gradually joined in. This incident broke out in a short time, but the evidence was irrefutable, and the Life Foundation had no room for rebuttal. Coupled with the disgusting propaganda content before, many San Francisco citizens felt deceived. As a result, the parade quickly expanded. Phil secretly made trouble, and the parade first came to the homeless home. The security guards of the Homeless Association were powerless to stop it. Although they had sticks in their hands, facing the impact of so many people, they were ultimately no match for 4 hands. The situation in the homeless home was finally exposed to everyone. There were local San Francisco self-media, video bloggers, etc., carrying cameras to record, as if they had dug up treasure, and they were extremely excited. Many people even held up their phones to take photos. This wave of materials immediately made the homeless home a hot topic again. This wave of attacks was like a storm, and the Life Foundation had no way to defend itself, and could no longer wash away the stain. At the same time, the official media statement of the Bugle Daily once again broke a piece of news that almost shocked the national media. Countless netizens turned their attention to the homeless home and completely turned to the Life Foundation. The Bugle Daily revealed that the Life Foundation signed a volunteer agreement with the homeless that the homeless people could not understand at all and was fundamentally unequal. Using illegal and irregular operations, the homeless people were used for human experiments. Over the years, the Life Foundation has developed rapidly because they have conducted countless human experiments in private. Thousands of lives have been consumed in this process. The homeless home is a pig farm prepared by the Life Foundation for their human experiments, waiting to be harvested at any time. This news revelation is like a depth bomb, which once again caused an uproar. Although the Bugle Daily's revelation did not provide any substantial evidence, the evidence of the crime was in front of it, and countless people saw the situation of the homeless home, which was equivalent to confirming the authenticity of the news. Someone interviewed the homeless. As expected, many people have signed agreements with the Life Foundation and have been taken away. According to the homeless people interviewed, those who signed the agreement never came back after cooperating with the Life Foundation to complete the experiment. The staff of the homeless shelter claimed that these people have returned to normal life. But someone caught up with this issue and asked the staff to tell them the current location, name and specific information of these homeless people, but the staff refused this request on the grounds of personal privacy. This time, the authenticity of the revelation was further confirmed. For a time, the Daily Bugle became famous in the name of justice. The Life Foundation became a complete loser and became a scum in the carnival of countless netizens in the media. Taking this opportunity, Phil organized a parade again and brought a group of San Francisco citizens who called for justice to the experimental base of the Life Foundation. His purpose this time was to rescue Eddie. Chapter 14 Norman Osborn. The experimental base is right next to the Golden Gate Bridge, with a very advantageous geographical location. In order to acquire this piece of land, Carlton Drake spent a huge price and made countless promises to the San Francisco city government. In terms of commercial returns, this place also brought great exposure to the Life Foundation. You may make a lot of money, but I will never lose money. It is worth mentioning that the cost of the base reached billions of US dollars. Counting the internal construction over the years, the purchase of medical and experimental equipment, etc., it easily exceeded 10 billion. This is an astonishing wealth. However, for a behemoth like the Life Foundation, this asset is only its physical part. As a leader in the pharmaceutical industry, the pharmaceutical patents in hand are the biggest part, and they are also the gold mine that countless people covet and want to snatch away. Release the volunteers. Homeless people should have human rights and freedom. Damn Life Foundation. Damn Carlton Drake. Boycott Life Foundation. Drake stepped down. At this time, people blocked the gate of the experimental base, shouting repeatedly, and their disgust for the Life Foundation was beyond words. The security guard stood inside the door with guns in hand, looking at the parade blocking the door, helpless, not knowing what to do. To those who are paid to do things, it's just the life of a homeless person. How much can it be worth? Carlton Drake stood high up in the base, looking through the French windows at the excited parade crowd, the anger in his eyes almost condensed into substance. A bunch of idiots. He gritted his teeth and admitted that he underestimated the Daily Bugle. The latter's advantage in guiding public opinion has reached a height that the Life Foundation can't even dream of. Moreover, the situation has developed to this point, and it is no longer a simple public opinion issue. Even the top leaders of the San Francisco city government have begun to question him. That means that the Life Foundation can only blame itself for its bad luck. If things go wrong, even I will have to go to jail. Eddie Brock. He muttered a few times, clenched his fists, and asked the assistant beside him, "Have you found out?" The assistant said, "Eddie Brock is now the editor-in-chief of the Daily Bugle, but he has not appeared in the Daily Bugle for a month. We found his last itinerary record, which is a ticket from New York to San Francisco. So, Eddie Brock should be in San Francisco now, Drake thought. Then, the video was taken by Eddie Brock, and the cause of this incident is inseparable from this bastard. After a pause, he asked again, "What did the Daily Bugle say?" The assistant hesitated. "They rejected our request." "Very good." Drake had a blank expression. It seems that this matter can no longer be solved by conventional means. At the same time, inside the experimental base, the Symbiote Research Center, Eddie, who was locked in the glass room, had no idea what was happening outside. Seeing the homeless people around him, many of them looked depressed, and some even fell to the ground motionless. The panic in his heart could not be described in words. He suddenly felt a little regretful. Da. Suddenly, a researcher in a white coat walked towards him. Eddie looked at the woman in front of him, swallowed his saliva, and guessed that the woman was going to take him to conduct illegal human experiments. He was quite desperate. The moment the door of the glass room opened, Eddie wanted to escape, but was caught by the security guard beside the woman. "Tie him up," the woman said lightly. "This is a precious volunteer. In the current situation, one less is one less. I don't know if there will be more in the future. Don't worry, I won't break your toys." The security guard smiled. Eddie's mood sank to the bottom of the sea when he heard it. When Eddie came to another glass room, the security guard seemed to foresee something and avoided him as much as possible. Only the female researcher was left. "You won't end well, bitch." Eddie couldn't help but curse. "Eddie, you should know who will end badly when you say such things in this situation," the female researcher said with a smile. Eddie was shocked and dumbfounded. You. He couldn't speak clearly, and the shock in his heart was written on his face. "You know it's me, of course." Eddie Brock, a well-known reporter, the first fool who dared to provoke Drake. The female researcher stared at Eddie and said slowly, "To be honest, I'm your fan." Outside the experimental base, Phil was at the forefront of the marching crowd. In his opinion, the Daily Bugle was already in an absolute upper hand, and in this war without gunpowder, it was equivalent to a great victory. From the time the incident was exposed to the present, the Life Foundation could only passively take the beating and had no power to fight back. "Boss, we blocked Carlt and Drake at the experimental base of the Life Foundation. They have lost their reputation. Under the strong pressure of public opinion, in order to restore their reputation and losses, I think Drake will hold a press conference soon and promise to release the volunteers." Phil was very excited and talked to Anton on the phone. "This idea is great. You are a genius. To use public opinion to oppress the Life Foundation." It was because of Anton's order that he began to organize the march. After the parade team was formed, he retired and hid in the crowd. Because at this time, he couldn't control the parade at all, and at the same time, exposing his identity would only put him in danger. Don't forget that San Francisco is the territory of the Life Foundation after all. "Very good. Pay attention to safety. Continue to hide. Don't let the people of the Life Foundation find out that you are a reporter, and report to me immediately if there is any situation," Anton patiently reminded. After listening to Phil's report, he knew that the Life Foundation should have been ready to raise the white flag and surrender. After all, with Carlt and Drake's brain, it is impossible not to think that the abnormal heat now is definitely not the work of the Daily Bugle. Although Phil's factors played a role in the formation of the parade so smoothly, there were probably other behind-the-scenes manipulators who took advantage of the situation. Among these marchers, at least half are actors invited by these behind-the-scenes manipulators. Ring, ring, ring. Suddenly, Anton's mobile phone rang again. The caller was Jonah Jameson. "Old man, you can praise me now." Anton smiled after answering the call. "I hope what I did didn't disappoint you. Don't get too proud of yourself. Do you think this is all your credit?" Jameson hit him bluntly. "Come down now. I've sent a driver to pick you up. Come with me to meet someone." Huh? Anton was surprised. "Who?" "You'll know when you get there." Jameson didn't say much and simply hung up the phone without giving Anton a chance to ask. After Anton got in the car, the driver said nothing. Soon, in Anton's astonished eyes, the car drove to the door of Osborne Building. Jameson waited for a long time. "Let's go." Jameson led Anton into Osborne Building. "Someone wants to see you." "Who?" Anton reacted after he said it. "Norman Osborn." He was quite unexpected. Although he was somewhat certain in his heart, he still couldn't help but ask the old man, is the person behind the Daily Bugle Norman Osborn? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15, Cooperation and Symbiosis. Don't worry about Norman Osborn's attitude when you meet him. Jameson nodded in agreement and said, you have to know that it is Osborn who needs the Daily Bugle, not the Daily Bugle that needs Osborn. What do you mean? Anton looked puzzled. He realized that the person Norman Osborn was meeting with might not be him, but the old man. However, the old man gave him full authority for this meeting. Go in. Arriving at the top floor, they came to the door of Norman Osborn's office. Jameson stopped and smiled. Go in. It's up to you next. Remember, you are now representing the Jameson family. Understood. Anton's face was complicated, and then he straightened his collar and knocked on the door. Come in. The voice of Norman Osborn came from the office. Anton pushed the door open. Norman was surprised when he saw this. If I remember correctly, your name is Anton, right? He smiled and said, I'm really surprised that Jonah, that old-fashioned man, actually gave the newspaper society to you. I thought he would hold on to the power and would not let go until the day he died. I think he must be very satisfied with you. Thank you for the compliment. Anton nodded slightly, looked at Norman Osborn, skipped the greetings, and went straight to the point. The old man didn't tell me what to say, but I think the purpose of our meeting today should be for the Life Foundation. Mr. Osborn, am I right? Yes. Norman invited him to take a seat and said, the Life Foundation is our common opponent. As far as I know, the recent scandal originating from the Life Foundation was led by you behind the scenes. I must admit that you have done a very good job with the style of Jonah back then. Old man? Anton's eyes flashed. It seems that he has brought down more big companies than me back then. Of course, I admire him, and I'm very sorry for his retirement. Norman Osborn said sincerely. Anton didn't know whether this was true or false, but as a young man, he preferred to get straight to the point, rather than wasting time on politeness. He took the initiative to ask, I wonder what Mr. Osborn is planning to do by calling me here today. Cooperation. Norman said bluntly, of course, I found the Daily Bugle for cooperation. It seems that Osborn is very interested in the Life Foundation. Anton showed an expression of expectedness. Norman said meaningfully, after all, our cooperation is based on the collapse of the Life Foundation. Although Oscorp is an arms company, it is also ranked among the top in the world in terms of biological genes. In other words, we are also a famous pharmaceutical company. Norman said, the Life Foundation is one of our rivals in this field. The pharmaceutical patents in their hands are what Oscorp has always dreamed of, and they are the most suitable supplement. It is indeed a major benefit to bring down the Life Foundation and let Oscorp take over. Anton asked, but what benefits can the Daily Bugle get from this? Shares. Norman Osborn made Oscorp bigger and stronger, and he knew that wanting the horse to run, but not eat grass was the most common bad habit in the development of enterprises, so he was always generous. As long as the Daily Bugle cooperates with Osborn to successfully acquire the Life Foundation, I can transfer 5% of the shares of the Life Foundation to the Jameson family afterwards. When it comes to business, Norman showed an attitude of no one else but me, and said lightly, I think this is enough to express my sincerity. Then, happy cooperation. Anton was quite straightforward. 5% of the Life Foundation's shares may sound like a pitiful number, but considering the size of the Life Foundation, it represents an incredible amount of wealth. Norman Osborn is indeed generous. As for why Osborn wants to cooperate with the Daily Bugle, it is probably because they are attracted by the Daily Bugle's ability to guide public opinion in this game. Without the Daily Bugle, Osborn wants to acquire the Life Foundation, but now they don't even know how to do it. This is definitely not a goal that can be achieved with money. The existence of the Daily Bugle is equivalent to filling the gap in Osborn's public opinion. As an indispensable part of the plan, this is why Norman Osborn is willing to bleed heavily. Walking out of Norman Osborn's office, Anton thought of what Norman had just said to him, that what he did was like Jonah Jameson back then, and his face suddenly became strange. He suddenly began to wonder, where did the Jameson family's wealth come from? Could it be that the old man relied on the Daily Bugle to fleece, extort, and ask for money, and finally got this 10 billion worth? San Francisco. Inside the experimental base, the Symbiote Research Center. Are you really going to let me go? Eddie stared at the woman named Doris Gus in front of him in disbelief. He never thought that he would encounter such a good thing. It was not me who let you go. You broke free from the restraints, knocked me out and ran away. Dora corrected Eddie's statement. I understand. Eddie nodded impatiently. Don't worry, I will never expose you. Before you leave, there are some things I must tell you. Dora looked solemn. This made Eddie realize something. His face changed, and he said in a deep voice, you say? Dora suddenly asked, do you know that the Life Foundation is obviously a pharmaceutical company? Why did it suddenly build rockets and launch a space program? Because of the overpopulation and climate change on the Earth. Drake wants to gain an advantage in the future. Eddie thought for a moment, recalling what Drake said in those interviews. Is it false? No, it's all true. Dora said, Drake sent a spacecraft to search for habitable planets for life, but accidentally discovered a comet on the return journey. Comet? Eddie was puzzled. What does this have to do with comets? The onboard computer of the spacecraft shows that there are signs of life of thousands of organisms on the comet. Dora said in a deep voice, they brought back some samples. Eddie's eyes widened. Wait, you mean aliens? You can say that. Dora nodded. However, we call it symbiont. They cannot survive independently in our environment and must find parasites, just like parasites in our ordinary sense. Then these experiments I have seen these days. Eddie took a breath. Yes, Drake believes that the combination of humans and symbiotes will be the key to our survival in space in the future. Dora said, revealing an indescribable expression, and slowly said, moreover, these experiments were not recorded in the test report. He was simply forcing the match. Once it fails, the host will die, which is what you call destroying life. He is simply a lunatic. Eddie was stunned. He originally thought that Drake was secretly conducting illegal human experiments for the purpose of researching new drugs. This can also be said to be for profit. He never expected that Drake was actually trying to combine humans and aliens. This seems to have nothing to do with profit. It is unacceptable. Chapter 16 Press Conference. Don't worry, when I get out, I will expose Drake's bad behavior and make him stay in jail for life. Eddie promised. Not to mention that he and Carl and Drake had a grudge. Drake's actions alone were worthy of being killed on the spot. Staying in jail for life would be a mercy to Drake. I just don't want to see anyone die for such a weird reason again. Dora's face was gloomy. Eddie's eyes flashed, and he heard the implication of Dora's words. Dora could still convince herself that the deaths of those volunteers before were for the medical cause. However, when Colt and Drake turned his attention to aliens and used strange and bizarre reasons that others could not understand to consume human lives, indecisive people like Doris Cuss could no longer make money against their conscience. Because this is not beneficial to society, it is purely destroying lives. The most coincidental thing is that Eddie appeared in front of her at the right time and gave her the courage to change the status quo. Don't worry, I will not let Drake go. Eddie promised again. Dora opened the door of the glass room, but neither of them expected that at this moment, a security guard came in. Seeing Eddie regain his freedom, the security guard clenched the gun in his hand and shouted loudly, don't move, or I will shoot. You better be honest. Eddie just wanted to curse in his heart. Damn it, you didn't come earlier or later, but just when I was leaving. Is it destined that I will die today? Strong reluctance made Eddie raise his hands and pretend to surrender, but slowly approached the security guard. Click. Seeing this, the security guard pulled the trigger without hesitation. Eddie was horrified. Sensing something was wrong, he dodged in advance. Whoosh. The bullet passed by Eddie's ear, and the hot airflow cut a bloody mark on his cheek. Click. The sound of glass breaking was heard. Dora and the security guard looked in the direction of the sound, and their faces changed wildly. The latter even forgot to continue shooting, and an indescribable fear appeared on his face. "Run!" Dora shouted at the top of her lungs, staring at Eddie's back in horror. At this moment, the security guards forgot about Eddie and ran out first, apparently asking someone to go. "What's going on?" Eddie was confused. He just came back to his senses from the luck of surviving the disaster and realized something. His body was shaking, and his back was cold. He turned his head slowly and saw a pool of black sticky substance, which had come to his heels and gradually climbed up his back. He felt vaguely that this pool of black mucus seemed to sink into his body and completely become a part of him. Gudang. He suddenly realized and was shocked and scared. Symbiote. Some things, even if you see them for the first time, you can tell them at a glance. New York, Osborne Building. Anton met the old man again. "Did you make a deal?" Jonah Jameson said with a smile. Oscorp has cooperated with the Daily Bugle many times, but this time, it is probably the largest amount of money involved. "Anton, you didn't let me down." "Old man, is this how you made money before?" Anton looked strange. To seek benefits for oneself within a reasonable range, anyone with a little IQ will do so. Jameson didn't care. "Every penny I earn is not against my conscience, and it is legal income that has been taxed. You don't think I can have a net worth of 10 billion now by blackmailing the Daily Bugle, do you?" Anton said admiringly. "That's not the case, but I really underestimated your connections. You will discover more secrets about me in the future." Jameson smiled. In the Life Foundation incident, Anton handed in a satisfactory answer. This made him very pleased, and he had the idea of seriously cultivating Anton. Ring ring ring. Suddenly, Anton's cell phone rang. "Boss, the Life Foundation has just issued a statement saying that a press conference will be held immediately to respond positively to the two major issues of homeless people and illegal experiments." Phil's voice came from the other side, extremely excited. "We won. Wait and see what Drake says." Anton replied, "Although we are sure of victory, we must also prevent the enemy from breaking the jar and breaking the jar." "Understood." Phil nodded. During the process, Anton and Jameson were greeted by the driver. The former took out his mobile phone and opened the live broadcast interface of the Daily Bugle. The screen in the mobile phone was aimed at the gate of the Life Foundation's experimental base next to the Golden Gate Bridge. At this moment, although the gate was tightly closed, it was crowded outside. The crowd not only included the demonstrators who had blocked the gate before, but also journalists from all parties, who were rushing in continuously, all wanting to report this major news that has caused widespread discussion in public opinion at the first time. "Don't worry, the Life Foundation has admitted defeat." Jameson glanced at it and was very confident. "Why do you say that?" Anton was curious. "The San Francisco city government has issued an ultimatum to Drake, requiring him to resolve the scandal as soon as possible." Jameson sneered. "Those high-ranking politicians don't want to see the scandal continue to ferment." "You know all this?" Anton was surprised. "That's the secret. Otherwise, why do you think Norman Osborn will give up profits to the Daily Bugle?" Jameson said, "I told you, Anton, I still have a lot of secrets." "Okay." Anton had a headache. "I just hope Eddie is safe. Everything has sacrifices." Jameson's tone was meaningful and mixed with indifference. "Anton, you have to learn to accept reality." Anton asked, "What about you? Have you learned it?" Jameson said, "Of course." Anton asked again, "Since you have learned it, why do you want to retire?" "This is life." Jameson replied, "You will understand later." While the two were communicating, there was progress in the press conference of the Life Foundation in San Francisco. The door slowly opened. Surrounded by several burly bodyguards, a thin man who looked to be in his early 30s appeared in everyone's sight. Carlton Drake, a self-made super-rich man. "Mr. Drake, how will you respond to the criticism from netizens? There are rumors that you have received a warning from the San Francisco Police Department. Is this true? Will you go to jail?" Drake, die. Countless people spoke at the same time, like hundreds of ducks quacking at the same time, which was extremely troublesome. "Quiet down." Drake raised his hand, walked to the podium, and said solemnly to the small microphone, "Everyone, the Life Foundation has always adhered to the concept of solving all human diseases. At present, many new drugs have been developed to solve many terminal diseases including pancreatic cancer, bringing life to terminally ill patients in the world. Although it is now facing many false accusations, I still want to tell you that I, Carlton Drake, have a clear conscience. Chapter 17 Venom appears. Eddie, you. Dora's voice trembled. She stared at the man in front of her with a terrified face. She was still in shock and shocked. Are you okay? Are you shocked that I'm okay? Eddie crossed his arms and touched his body. He was also in shock, but couldn't help rolling his eyes. Do you really want something to happen to me? No. Dora's eyes lit up with excitement, and her researcher nature immediately took over her IQ. She said excitedly, you're okay, you're actually okay. You and the symbiote fit together, and you become the perfect host. So, I can already survive in space? Eddie was stunned. Of course. A deep voice sounded in his mind. You are my perfect host. Who? Eddie's eyes widened. Who is talking? Who is talking? Dora was puzzled. No one is talking. Impossible. Eddie said firmly. I clearly heard someone talking. Are you hallucinating? Dora frowned. Does the symbiont have side effects? No, you have to get a checkup as soon as possible. What checkup? Eddie thought of his current situation and was too lazy to say more. He would only think about these things when he was safe. Otherwise this day next year would be his death anniversary. Run. It's too late if we don't run now. Eddie pulled Dora and ran away from the Symbiont Research Center. Over there. The exit is over there. Dora pointed in the direction. The two ran wildly. Stop. At this time, a group of security personnel appeared from the aisle. They were holding guns. When they saw Eddie and Dora, they immediately pointed their guns at them. Otherwise we will shoot. The leading man shouted loudly. Eddie and Dora turned a deaf ear to him and even quickened their pace. Only a fool would stop. Shoot. The man said decisively. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The powerful special gun spewed out blue flames. Bullets flew and landed at the feet of Eddie and Dora, frightening them to burst out with potential they had never had before. What shocked Eddie was that a bullet was clearly flying towards him. He desperately thought that he would have to stay here today, but at the critical moment, his body strangely pushed forward a step and avoided the attack of the bullet. This force came suddenly, as if someone lived in his body. Gulp. While running, Eddie was still frightened and had some vague feelings. But in this situation, of course he didn't dare to stop and study his body, so he could only run forward with all his strength. Dora couldn't even keep up with Eddie's speed. He was dragged by his hand and ran, which was very painful. Soon, several thugs with guns appeared in front of them. There were wolves in front and tigers behind. Eddie and Dora seemed to have nowhere to escape. Dora showed a look of despair. At this time, Eddie's body was out of control. He slid forward and knocked down several thugs in front of him with one kick. Then he stood up, as if he had overcome gravity, and pushed with both hands, forcibly pushing the remaining two thugs away. Bang! The two thugs crashed into the sides of the aisle, like a painting hanging on the wall, and they couldn't be knocked down. Beating people is like hanging a painting. Eddie's sudden burst of huge power was shocking. Dora was stunned. Then she was pulled away. Chase. The man behind her rushed over with his men. He looked at the men on both sides, who slid down the wall and fell to the ground in horror. As the security captain, he was naturally experienced and could see that the power Eddie had just used was incredible. How is it possible? The man swallowed his saliva, as if he had guessed something. His eyes lit up. Catch him. He shouted loudly. We must catch him. The boss will reward you handsomely. Understood. The rest of the people were not stupid. They were also extremely excited. There was fire in their eyes. They looked at Eddie and Dora, as if they were looking at two running gold mines. Swish. Under the temptation of money, several people quickly chased Eddie and Dora. But along the way, Eddie's body was out of control, and he showed amazing ability, quickly knocking down a group of thugs who stood in front of him. His body even had strange deformations. It turned into a pool of mucus and flew out, like a tentacle, that continued to extend, condensed into substance, and wrapped around the enemy's body, and then threw it out fiercely. Listening to the crackling sound of bones breaking, you don't need to think to know that this life is ruined. Dora was completely stunned. She didn't expect that after humans and symbiotes combined, they could actually have such terrifying superpowers. No wonder Carl and Drake wanted to find out the results at all costs. Could it be that Drake had planned it in advance? While Dora was thinking about it, Eddie's transformation made her feel confused and terrified. Swish. At the critical moment, when the crowd gathered, Eddie turned into an ugly black alien. The 3-meter tall form was like a small giant. He could touch the ceiling with a slight hand raise, giving people a great sense of oppression. The alien had big eyes with whites, like a demon from hell, and the fangs on his face were sharp and dense. It laughed triumphantly in the crowd, and swallowed the head of the enemy in front of it into its stomach. The others were so scared that they collapsed, and couldn't even hold their guns. AHH. Dora screamed in fear. Swish. Eddie changed back in an instant, his face full of horror. What was that just now? Although Eddie was covered by the symbiote, he still retained his original will, and took in the scene just now. What the hell did I do? I ate people. He almost collapsed, turned his head, and glared at Dora. What the hell is a symbiote? I don't know. Dora was also about to collapse. Don't run. There were pursuers behind him. In an emergency, Eddie could only forget the scene just now. Anyway, these people deserved to die, so there was no time to think about it, and continued to drag Dora away. Bang, bang, bang. They quickly came to the exit. At this time, Carlton Drake was giving his passionate and enthusiastic speech. It was more like a personal show than a press conference. Anton and Jameson were drowsy watching. The barking of a loser. Suddenly, a loud noise attracted everyone's attention, including the reporters. Everyone cast their eyes to the place where the loud noise broke out. It was an iron door behind Drake. Like a seal, it blocked everyone's sight tightly. However, at this moment, a huge bulge appeared in the heavy iron door, as if it was hit by a powerful artillery shell. What is that? People cried out. Is there a monster behind the door? Boom! Exclamation mark. Under the horrified eyes of the crowd, the heavy iron door suddenly bulged completely and then flew out. Bang! The iron door fell to the ground. Behind the empty door, two figures appeared. A man and a woman. Phil in the crowd stared with wide eyes, stunned. The woman was being held in the arms of the man in a princess hug, and her face could not be seen clearly. The man's hair was messy and his face was full of dirt. Except for being a blonde white man, it was impossible to tell his identity. Who is that? People cried out. He destroyed the iron door. What kind of monster is he? Stop. The thugs behind the door rushed over again with guns. The man did not look back or even look at the crowd in front of him. He stepped on his feet and jumped up, at least 20 meters high. Amid the woman's screams, he ran away from the woods next to him. The thugs hurriedly chased him. Seeing this, Drake was completely speechless. Then he realized something, and a flash of excitement flashed through his heart. He looked at the assistant beside him. The assistant stepped forward at the right time. Mr. Drake, do you have anything to explain about the scene just now? Who is that man? Is he your experimental subject? He just showed extraordinary abilities. Is this the purpose of your illegal human experiments? Mr. Drake, please answer our questions. The questions came like a string of cannonballs, making it impossible to dodge like a storm. Drake turned a deaf ear to them, waved his hand, and left the podium. The assistant came to the side of the small microphone. Sorry, there was an emergency, and we don't know what happened now. After a pause, he continued, today's press conference ends here. When we understand the situation, we will definitely explain it to the public again. Don't go. The crowd was boiling. Drake didn't care at all, and walked quickly into the experimental base. Even if he didn't use his brain and thought with his butt, he understood what had just happened. Success. The experiment of combining humans and symbiotes was successful. On the other side, the moment Eddie appeared, Anton, who was watching the live broadcast in the car, almost choked to death. Fuck. He cursed in Chinese. Eddie. Chapter 18 Separation. Eddie? Jameson's eyes flashed, and he felt that the man just now actually overlapped with the image of Eddie in his memory. Although he had only met Eddie once, the information he collected about Eddie had already deeply engraved Eddie's image in his mind. That man is Eddie. Despite this, Jameson still couldn't believe it. The scene of kicking the heavy iron door away seemed like an old video left by Captain America 70 years ago. Yes, it's Eddie. Anton nodded. Eddie sneaked into the homeless shelter, and our video material came from that. But then, Eddie became a volunteer, and was taken to the experimental base. He spoke briefly. In just a few sentences, Jameson understood the situation. So, Eddie's changes related to Drake's research. Jameson touched his chin, suddenly realized, and whispered to himself, no wonder Norman Osborn is willing to bleed heavily to acquire the Life Foundation. It seems that this matter is not as simple as I thought. You mean, Norman Osborn knows the inside story of the Life Foundation? Anton was surprised. Norman has more or less grasped some information. Otherwise, he would not have found us at this time and let us ask for so much. Jameson snorted. You have to know that Norman Osborn is not a man without patience. They are all a bunch of vault foxes. Anton shook his head and deeply realized that he was still too naive. If Osborn had not noticed the clues during the period of public opinion fermentation and pushed behind the scenes, the Life Foundation might not be as easy to deal with as he thought. Back to the Daily Bugle. When getting off the car, Jonah Jameson waved his hand and drove away, without any nostalgia for the place where he had worked for decades. Anton went upstairs and saw his colleagues with excited faces. Anton, we succeeded. Someone cheered. The Life Foundation is finished. They watched the press conference just now and saw Carlton Drake's stubbornness very thoroughly, which was equivalent to a certain degree of surrender. However, they also talked about the sudden accident at the end of the press conference. Why does that person look familiar? A man carrying a woman out of the experimental base. Feels like a wonderful love story. No matter what, some special experiments are being conducted inside the Life Foundation. This is an irrefutable fact. The Life Foundation is finished. Everyone talked at once. Well, this is just the first stage of victory. We still have a lot of things to do. Anton motioned for everyone to be quiet and said loudly, next, we will seize the opportunity to completely defeat Drake from the public opinion. We must not give the Life Foundation a chance to turn the tables. After a pause, when this is over, the bonus will be doubled. The boss is generous. Everyone cheered. Anton walked into the office with a smile, and after sitting in the boss's chair, his face turned solemn. He called Phil. Boss, did you see that just now? At this time, Phil left the experimental base and stood at the bridgehead of the Golden Gate Bridge with a look of astonishment that was difficult to hide on his face. His tone was extremely incredible. That person is Editor-in-Chief Eddie. There is no mistake. It must be Editor-in-Chief Eddie. I know. Anton replied. Although the Life Foundation has lost to us in public opinion, they will not let Eddie go easily. You continue to stay in San Francisco to find Eddie, and I will do my best to help you. Understood. Phil nodded heavily. I will definitely find Editor-in-Chief Eddie. Beep. After hanging up, Anton rubbed his temples and had a headache. Venom. He could almost conclude that Eddie had combined with the symbiote and had the ability to transform into Venom. This not only does not mean the end, but another beginning. However, once the Life Foundation uses force, the space he can play will be infinitely compressed. I just hope Eddie can withstand the pressure. Perhaps, when Oscorp launches a takeover of the Life Foundation and takes control of the Life Foundation from Carlton Drake, Eddie will be temporarily safe. Otherwise, Eddie can only use the ability of Venom to completely end Carlton Drake like in the movie. No one can say for sure. The current situation is different from the plot of the movie. The Daily Bugle got involved, and Oscorp got involved, completely muddying the waters. Future developments must not be viewed from the original perspective. Waiting like this is not a solution. Anton frowned and muttered to himself, I have to exchange the Batman armor as soon as possible. If I can master Batman's power, even if it's just a basic armor, I can be less passive. He immediately called and learned that the film crew had entered the final stage. Relying on the special effects plan that had been designed long ago, most of the special effects production work had been completed. After these two tasks were completed, the only things left in the later stage were editing and publicity. As for the novel version of Batman Begins that was released early, the serialization in the Daily Bugle also came to an end. The exciting plot and excellent quality made the novel gradually popular in the New York area, attracting the attention of many book fans. Checking the Batman fan value, there are already 210,000. This progress is really not slow. But Anton was still a little impatient, always feeling that there was a big stone hanging in his heart, and lacking a sense of security. He called Betty and told her, contact advertisers and increase the publicity of Batman novels. I want the whole of New York City to know Batman's name before the movie is released. This is a big expense. Anton, your personal account is out of money. Betty spread her hands, indicating that she was powerless. Why do you want to use my personal account? Anton was very upset and almost started to scold. Batman novels are published by the publishing house controlled by the Daily Bugle. The publishing house can't do nothing about the books, written by the boss, right? You are the boss. You have the final say. This time, Betty had no reason to refuse, and she twisted her hips and left the office. On the other side, San Francisco, a corner of the city, Eddie put Dora down and said in a deep voice, we must separate. Why? Dora was shocked. Are you going to leave me and run for your life alone? No, Eddie explained. Carlton Drake will not let me go, but you are not Drake's target. You can find a safe place to hide and come out after the matter is over. No, my daughter is still in Drake's hands. Dora flatly refused. As a mother, I can't take risks with my daughter. Eddie thought for a moment and suddenly said, as a senior researcher, you should know a lot of inside information about the Life Foundation, including Drake's secrets, right? What do you want to say? Dora was alert. Don't forget, I used to be a reporter. Eddie said, you can go to the Daily Bugle and reveal the news. With the power of public opinion, Drake dare not do anything to you. As far as I know, you are not the only one whose family is controlled by him. What about you? Dora asked again. After a short thought, Eddie basically understood his situation. I'm in danger now and can't appear in the public eye. He smiled bitterly and said, you know, Drake is a lunatic. I'm the only human who has combined with the symbiote so far, and he won't let me go easily. His pursuit of me will only stop when he loses his power. Dora gritted her teeth. She was not stupid, and now was not the time to act out a sad drama. She said decisively, in that case, we'll separate here. You'd better give me a way to contact you. After a pause, she said, if you need me, I'll try my best to help you. After all, my understanding of the symbiote is far beyond yours. Eddie nodded. Okay, I have a private email address. Please remember it. It feels like I'm playing alone. There are too few recommendation votes, and the number of follow-up reads seems to be very low. Are you all robots? Vote for recommendations to save the child. Please add to my collection. The collection can't increase anymore. You can give rewards at will. The only rewards I have now are those I cheated. Crying. Chapter 19 movie completed. After Eddie and Dora separated, he looked in the direction of downtown San Francisco, showed a pensive expression, and turned to walk towards the suburbs. Then his face changed, and his body twisted involuntarily. Hungry. I want to eat. A deep voice burst out from his mind. What? Eddie was stunned. It was the same voice again. This time he was sure that it was not an auditory hallucination, but that there was really a person living in his body. What to eat? Eddie couldn't laugh, showing a helpless expression, and spread his hands. You still want to eat now? He suddenly remembered that he had swallowed a person's head in one bite when he broke out of the experimental base. His face looked even worse, and his stomach twitched slightly. Don't tell me you want to eat people. Before he finished speaking, whoosh, his body round involuntarily, bursting out with extraordinary speed. Shit. New York. Daily Bugle. Anton received an email. Read the message on it, and immediately contacted Phil, asking Phil to go to a place in San Francisco to pick up a woman. The woman was Dorascus. Afterwards, Dora told Anton and Phil everything she knew without hiding anything. Phil wrote a press release of several thousand words at Anton's instruction. The content of the manuscript was vivid and emotional, revealing the whole story and Carlton Drake's ambitions clearly. However, the part about aliens, that is, symbiotes, was hidden. It was referred to as mysterious experiments. Of course, Phil relied on Dora's description and imagination to create the image of a supervillain about how Drake killed lives, how he did not regard homeless people as human beings, how he used the researcher's family as a threat, and how he was cold and ruthless. After the manuscript was finalized, it was posted on the official website of the Daily Bugle at the fastest speed. Then, in the already boiling public opinion environment, the press release was constantly reprinted, and the number of clicks quickly exceeded 100 million. No one doubted the authenticity of this manuscript. With this revelation, the Daily Bugle became a fighter for justice, and was hailed as the last conscience of the newspaper. The Daily Bugle, which already had a high credibility in the hearts of New York citizens, has now become the #1 in the hearts of New York citizens and even the entire United States with the help of this incident. Osborn Building. Well done, Anton, I was right about you. Norman Osborn noticed the direction of public opinion on the internet, which was like the last straw that broke the camel's back, destroying the possibility of a comeback for the Life Foundation. He was overjoyed and couldn't help but praise, Jameson, you have found a perfect successor. With public opinion boiling and internal affairs exposed, even those politicians who were on good terms with Drake could not save the Life Foundation and could only let the situation continue to develop. It is conceivable that the one who will clean up the mess in the end, and has the ability to clean up the mess, will be none other than Osborn. Norman thought about it, called his secretary, and submitted the acquisition of the Life Foundation as a formal topic to the board members. He was ready to unify the right to speak within Osborn as quickly as possible, then take over the Life Foundation. Aliens, symbiote. Norman's harsh face showed a rare smile. Previously, he was also one of the audience at the press conference held by Drake. But what made him most happy was not Drake's emotional speech, but the unexpected incident at the end of the press conference. That is, the scene where Eddie kicked the iron door away. Symbiote. Flames ignited in his eyes. I must get it. After thinking, press a button on the table. The bodyguard outside the office came to him and said respectfully, "Boss, what do you want?" "Take people to San Francisco and find that person before Drake," Norman ordered. "If you can't do it, you don't have to come back. Oscorp doesn't keep idle people." "Understood." The bodyguard nodded solemnly. "It's dark." Anton looked at the stars outside the window and sighed. He was exhausted these days. He used more brain cells than in the previous 20 years. He ate and lived at the Daily Bugle, and almost never left the office. He looked like a workaholic. Betty was extremely surprised, and felt that Anton had changed. "I should be able to take a real break today." Anton left the Daily Bugle and drove home. He found that Jonah Jameson was still not at home, and his mouth twitched. The retirement life of the rich is really enviable. Anton was happy when he thought that he could live such a life in a few decades. Soon, time passed. These days, the Daily Bugle has not been chasing the Life Foundation, but only issued some press releases from time to follow up on the situation of the Life Foundation. As hot topics, these articles have considerable clicks. Even the newspapers of the Daily Bugle have sold more than before, which can be said to be a big profit. The Life Foundation seems to accept the status quo and admit defeat honestly without any reaction. But Anton notes that the Life Foundation is not unresponsive, but too lazy to pay attention to these gossips. They are hunting Eddie. Anton can't help with this. With Eddie's current ability, it is not a problem to deal with the armed pursuit of the Life Foundation. Anton can only make up for Eddie in terms of money, sending Eddie a huge sum of money for living. This is all Anton can do at this time. You can't expect Anton to go down and help Eddie fight, right? He hasn't mastered the Batman armor yet. If he goes to San Francisco willfully, it's unknown who will help him fight. It is worth mentioning that Eddie's identity cannot be hidden under the full investigation of the Life Foundation, including Dora. The Life Foundation has a clear understanding of the specific process of Eddie and the others' escape. In this regard, Drake was furious, but he did not make a public statement. Instead, he waved his hand and let the family of the senior researcher go, as if to show his sincerity in this regard. It means, lie down and let others laugh at you. During this period of time, Anton finally received good news. The movie is finished. It took nearly 3 months, and Batman Begins finally entered the post-production stage. In the previous life, When Nolan shot this movie, it took 129 days from the start to the completion. Anton stood on the shoulders of giants and spent almost 90 days. The gap is actually not that big. Post-production is another aspect. In simple terms, it is editing, dubbing, loading subtitles, and special effects. Anton had already prepared the most time-consuming special effects during the filming process. Now he only needs to add special effects shots according to the pictures, which has become the most troublesome part. Anton asked the editor to arrive in New York with the lens data, and he went straight into the editing room. He discussed with the editor for a whole day and determined the editing ideas. Then, like flowing water, he edited a 140-minute blockbuster in just 3 days. Anton did not need to participate in the dubbing and subtitle work. Seeing the finished film, he breathed a sigh of relief and felt a sense of accomplishment. When Jim arrived in New York and saw the finished film, he also showed a surprised expression. Jim never expected that a movie that was rushed out would not show any signs of shoddy work. Instead, many shots seemed to be premeditated and fascinating. This is a situation that only occurs when the director's thoughts are smooth enough and his inspiration is overflowing. Anton, you are a genius. Jim complained to Anton, and the moment he saw the finished film, it disappeared. Thank you for the compliment. Now the important thing is to find a distributor and increase publicity. Anton said. Batman's novels are very well known in New York. You made a good move. Jim said. I recommend holding the premiere in New York. If you can invite Tony Stark, it will be much more convenient for us. Of course. Anton smiled mysteriously. This is a movie invested by Tony. He will definitely come. Thanks to I want to take a long way home for the reward. I caught a wild reader. Today's manuscript fee plus 0.5. Chapter 20 premiere. Jim quickly found the distributor of the film. With the background of the Jameson family and Jim's connections in the industry as a former first-line producer, it is not difficult to arrange theatrical movies. Even the issue of opening the screen, that is, the issue of the proportion of the film schedule, can be easily resolved. You know, in Batman Begins, the biggest star is not the star in the movie, but the investor. Tony Stark. Playboy, genius inventor, super rich, and so on. With so many titles, he shows an arrogant and showy image in front of the public. Regardless of whether anyone really likes him, the fact is that many people do pay attention to him. Tony Stark's mouth is a billboard worth hundreds of millions. Because in the entire American empire, no one doesn't know Tony Stark. This guy's recognized as a natural winner. Showing Tony Stark's name, this movie is worth 20% of the schedule. In addition, Jim is confident in the quality of the movie itself. 40% is not a difficult thing. But Jim is full of confidence and pursues 60% of the schedule. First, the configuration alone would squeeze out other movies released at the same time. Secondly, Jim had been silent for so many years and finally saw the possibility of a comeback. Of course, he would go all out and would not easily let go of the fleeting opportunity. He used all his skills. Finally, he set a release date and held a premiere. The publicity was carried out simultaneously. The novel Batman Begins is a very famous new book in New York recently. Anton's previous preparations worked. Knowing that the movie adapted from the novel was about to be released, many book fans gathered in the forum specially opened by the Daily Bugle for the novel, bragging and talking nonsense every day. At the same time, the news that Tony Stark spent $50 million to invest in a movie was also widely circulated among the crowd. A group of top-rich second generations finally remembered the bet that Anton and Tony Stark made that day. Therefore, rumors were everywhere. This movie actually originated from a bet between two rich second generations. Some people became curious. Some people directly asserted that it must be a bad movie and would never watch it. However, Anton also released news that the idea of Batman actually came from Tony Stark. His parents died unexpectedly, and he inherited a billion-dollar fortune. On the surface, he is a playboy, but in private he is quite serious and thinks about saving the world all day long. People agree with the first half of this sentence, but the second half is a matter of opinion. If you say that a business owner who sells arms thinks about how to save the world all day long, it must be a cold joke. He thinks about how to start a war all day long, which is in line with people's positioning of an arms giant. In any case, under the continuous bombardment of these news, the movie Batman has also attracted the attention of many people, and the exposure has increased dramatically. Anton checked the system space and found that Batman's fan value has increased to 800,000. The movie has not yet been released, and these are all fans brought by the novel. To a certain extent, publishing 10 more novels will barely be enough to buy the fan value of Batman's armor. However, with the movie about to be released, Anton is too lazy to think so much. As long as Batman's popularity is promoted, there will be no worries about no one joining the pit, and it should not be difficult to get 9.98 million fan value. He took out his cell phone and called Tony Stark, who responded with some sarcasm. In the end, Tony agreed to attend the premiere. Tony was a man who loved to tinker with things, and such people were very curious. In other words, he was very interested in this movie. Of course, the interest here did not mean that Tony wanted to see the content of the movie, but that he wanted to make fun of Anton through this movie. Tony thought he knew very well what kind of person Anton was. He really didn't expect that Anton would actually tinker with it for 3 months and actually make a movie. And it was a superhero movie, a type that Anton had created and had never heard of before. Jarvis, I want to talk to Pepper. Thinking of the bet, Tony chuckled. Hey, honey, postpone my trip to Afghanistan. You know, there's something very interesting waiting for me recently. Oh, by the way, I might need a female companion at the premiere. Would you be willing to be my female companion? That day, the premiere began. Jonah Jameson arrived. I'll be looking forward to it. Jameson smiled and said, I hope this movie won't make me doze off. Then you won't be disappointed. Anton patted his chest, full of confidence. Next, except for Tony Stark who loves to be late, almost all the people arrived. After the routine speeches and the reporters took pictures, the movie was about to start. At this time, Tony Stark finally arrived late. His female companion was Pepper Potts, also known as Pepper. Anton was not unfamiliar with her. In many party occasions before, Pepper Potts was often the little expert who handled the aftermath for Tony. Over the years, the only person who could control Tony was probably his assistant. You really like to be late, Tony. Anton greeted him. Anton, I will look forward to you becoming my bag-carrying brother after the movie is over. Tony laughed. In the past 3 months, he almost forgot about this bet. Tony never kept things in life in mind, including the $50 million he spent this time. This amount of money was nothing to him. But when the movie was released, the crazy publicity and the rumors of the bet reminded him of his grudge with Anton. After watching the movie, I hope you can still say such things. Anton shrugged. You don't think you can really make a classic, do you? Tony pouted and pulled Pepper to sit down. He thought to himself that, as long as he was not interested, he would get up and leave immediately and come back at a good time. Anyway, he would not let Anton slip away from under his nose. At the same time, San Francisco, Life Foundation headquarters building. Carlton Drake sat in a spacious office, looking at the bright scenery outside the window, his face as gloomy as water, as if covered by dark clouds. He threw the information in his hand at the face of a bodyguard leader in front of him. How many days has it been? Drake was furious, spitting everywhere. It's just Eddie. How many days have you chased him? How many people have you lost? If you can't catch him, what's the point of keeping you? Boss, besides us, there are others who are trying to catch him. The head of the bodyguards didn't dare to refute, and whispered, their equipment is very good and very special. They look like people from Oscorp. Osborn. Norman Osborn, this bastard. Drake clenched his fists. With the power of the Life Foundation, it is still not enough to fight against Oscorp. However, Oscorp is in New York after all. Norman Osborn's hand may reach San Francisco, but the truth that a strong dragon cannot defeat a local snake has been verified long ago. Otherwise, the Life Foundation would have been in the pocket of Oscorp long ago. But the key is that, given the current situation, the Life Foundation can only admit defeat and swallow this loss. The only chance to turn the tables is to catch Eddie, turn the research results into data, and put it on the desk of the San Francisco city government. At that time, those bastard politicians who only care about their own interests will naturally open their arms to the Life Foundation again. Symbiotes are definitely the future development trend. This is intuition, and it is also destiny. Carlton Drake is convinced of this. What else? Drake glanced at the head of the bodyguards. Tell me about the situation of the Daily Bugle in detail. The actual controller of the Daily Bugle is Anton Jameson. He is the grandson of the founder Jonah Jameson. When Eddie was the editor-in-chief of the Daily Bugle, he had a close relationship with him. The head of the bodyguard said, the public opinion attacks on the internet are inseparable from Anton. Teach him a lesson. Drake ordered in a cold tone. The head of the bodyguard spoke carefully. Boss, Jonah Jameson is a guest of honor of the New York City government. If we want to take action against them, I'm afraid it will be difficult to get away with it. It is inevitable that they will find out about us. The San Francisco city government is already very dissatisfied with us. If we completely offend them because of this matter, I'm afraid. Drake's face sank, and his teeth were almost bleeding. He felt that he was in a dilemma. Everything he did was blocked. Shit. Drake was furious. Anyway, I want you to teach him a lesson. You must let him know the consequences of offending our Life Foundation. Yes. The bodyguard leader did not dare to refute, nodded his head and agreed, then left the office. It took Drake a long time to calm down. He thought of Oscorp. Norman, you want to acquire my company, it will never be possible. Drake's eyes were cold. Anton Jameson, don't think you can be safe hiding in New York. No matter what, I want you to pay the price. Chapter 21 Key. The movie opens. Tony Stark can relate to the upbringing of the protagonist Bruce Wayne. The conflict between Tony and Howard gradually emerged as Tony grew older and his personality improved. Before the Howards died in a car accident, the conflict broke out, and Tony hadn't spoken to Howard for a long time. After the Howards died, when Tony really felt regretful, it was too late. From this point of view, Bruce Wayne is even worse. Before he grew up, both his parents died. When he was still young, the family business was seized by someone, and only the butler was left to accompany him. Even when facing his childhood sweetheart, Rachel, he was timid and didn't dare to break the window paper. Tony Stark felt more and more aggrieved. Just when he couldn't help wanting to leave, Bruce Wayne in the movie made a choice. He decided to leave Gotham City, hide his identity, travel around the world, and find the most incisive way to fight crime, so that the world's most vicious villains would be terrified. He inherited his father's will to change the corrupt Gotham City. He trained hard in the snowy mountains, and gained strength from the Assassin's League. When Bruce Wayne returned to Gotham and became Batman, the dark style of the whole movie was slightly adjusted to the direction of the cool text. Bruce Wayne regained control of the family business. He ordered Lucius Fox to make armor. Taking childhood fear as his creed, adhering to the principle of not killing, he became a bat in the dark night, like a knight in the dark, using amazing skills, superb wisdom and high-tech weapons to change the city. Americans just like this kind of personal heroism. Many people were excited. In the end, the big villain appeared, and it turned out to be Bruce Wayne's master, the leader of the Assassin's League, Henry Duca. The dramatic treatment was surprising. The unexpected and reasonable plot made people feel the sincerity of the screenwriter. When Bruce Wayne killed the big villain, the screen turned black, and then an Easter egg was played as a clue to the second part, and then the credits appeared. As we all know, the movie is over. Pa 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 pa. People couldn't help but clap. Tony had a gloomy face. Although he was not happy, he had to admit that the movie was wonderful. A typical 3-act structure. In simple terms, it is the beginning, climax, and ending. The creative ability Anton showed in this movie made him unbelievable that this was an old friend he once knew. Many rich second generations who came here to watch the show all clapped and paid tribute. They looked at Anton with new eyes. At the same time, many people present saw the list of main creative staff that appeared in the last few minutes of the movie's curtain call. Director, Anton. Screenwriter, Anton. Browning editor, Anton. Anton was present in several important positions. Even though the names of the dozen or so assistant directors were a bit eye-catching, people who were familiar with Anton almost popped their eyes out. Especially Betty next to Anton. Jameson was very relieved. He felt that Anton had finally found his own career. In addition, Anton's performance in the Daily Bugle in recent times, even if he waited 100 years later, Anton would still be able to bring the Jameson family to a higher position. Thank you, everyone. Anton went on stage to speak, calm and composed, chatting and laughing. After the premiere, he deliberately found Tony, who wanted to leave, but suddenly had some thoughts about the actress who played Rachel. Tony, thank you for the 50 million. Anton smiled, and after seeing the audience's reaction, he became more confident about the success of the film. Although Tony foresaw his failure, and was extremely unhappy, he would not do anything behind the scenes to prevent others from succeeding. Although he was stingy, he had his own temperament. Otherwise, Stark Industries arms and equipment had been plagiarized and slandered by Hammer Group, which was also an arms dealer, for many years. He would have been furious and died. You only beat me once, Tony said with a dark face, and I have beaten you countless times at the previous party. Don't get carried away, I promise there won't be a second time. Wait and see. Anton looked like he could do nothing to me. As the loser today, Tony couldn't refute, and was so angry that he didn't want to talk to Anton anymore. He didn't even care about the female star, and took Pepper away. Tony finally experienced what Anton felt like when he was angry at the party before. I won't see you off because of the poor hospitality, Anton shouted behind him. Tony quickened his pace. Dear, it seems that there are only two of us now. Anton turned his head and spread his hands to the heroine who often discussed the script with him late at night, showing a helpless smile. Then you can't run away tonight. The charming female star showed a charming smile. Of course. The next day, Anton stood up with his waist, his legs trembling slightly. The sleeping beauty next to him had a ruddy face, curled up in the quilt with a satisfied look, and breathed evenly, like a princess waiting to be woken up by the prince's kiss. But Anton didn't dare to kiss her now. I almost surrendered yesterday. What if it happens again today, and I lose face? The ancients were not deceiving me. There are only cows that die of exhaustion, but no fields that are plowed to death. Being a man is too hard. Anton thought, when the Batman armor is exchanged, he will put on the armor and play some role-playing games. Will he be able to revive on the spot? After putting on his clothes, he closed the door and left without any regrets. Arriving at the Daily Bugle, Betty waited for a long time and threw a report in front of him. Congratulations, the movie is a big success, Betty said expressionlessly. The box office at midnight is 14 million. As an original movie that lacks a fan base, you have proved your ability. Of course, you may have to thank Tony Stark's appeal. I have already thanked him in person. Anton shrugged, then changed the subject. Betty, you look unhappy. Are you having your period? Betty said coldly, if you can wipe off the annoying lipstick marks on your neck, I will feel much better. Oh. Anton grinned, lowered his voice, his eyes full of affection. You don't like me, do you? I know I'm very charming. You don't have to say it. Tonight. You are dreaming. Betty was merciless. I have been busy all night, but you are having a good time with a female star. If you were not my boss, I would definitely kick your ass. Okay, this month's bonus will be doubled. Anton was a little embarrassed and decided to talk with money. That's about right. Betty was immediately convinced and handled the matter in a business-like manner. I suggest that we continue to increase the publicity efforts. Only a few major film critics have spoken out now, and the ratings will inevitably drop as the film is released. I know, go ahead. Anton waved his hand. These work-related issues gave him a headache. Especially after a night of hard work, he couldn't bear to hear these things. As long as it can push up the box office, anything is fine. Anton gave an answer. Anyway, what he really cares about is not the box office, but the high exposure behind the high box office. The fan value is the key. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22 The Last Order. Batman Begins grossed 14 million at midnight and 87 million on the first day. As an original film without a previous work, this is undoubtedly an amazing achievement, almost breaking the record of original films. As Betty said, most of it is due to Tony Stark. If the film is not promoted with the help of Tony's fame, even if the film is good, it will not be so good. There are professional film websites that predict the final box office. The local box office is about 500 million, and the overseas box office revenue is at least 200 million. The global box office is expected to exceed 700 million. According to the investment of 100 million, the return rate of the box office sharing exceeds 150%. Including the operation of IPE, the film company benefits from DVD, streaming media and video on demand, and the return rate exceeds 200%, which is not ordinary money. And this is only Anton's first work as a director. After Jameson learned about the situation, as a retired boss, he was a little jealous, not to mention other people in the era of self-media. Wealth is always a hot topic. As the central figure of the topic, Anton was immediately named a genius director. At the same time, the higher Anton's popularity, the higher the popularity of the movies he directed, and vice versa. The two complement each other. 1 week after the movie was released, Batman's fan value quickly exceeded 5 million, and the box office performance remained at 270 million. At this time, the box office growth slowed down significantly, and the curve was weak. Seeing this, many movie websites lowered their predicted box office record to 460 million. Despite this, Anton has recovered his costs, and the rest is pure profit. According to the agreement, Tony does not need to be distributed dividends. Excluding the box office, Anton's personal return on investment has reached an astonishing 400%. For the first time, Jameson felt that his years of hard work were not as good as Anton's making a few more movies. But Batman's growing popularity was suddenly interrupted by a sensational news. Tony Stark, the largest shareholder and chairman of Stark Industries, was attacked while demonstrating a new missile in Afghanistan, and is currently missing. Missing means that you don't even know whether he is dead or alive. Anton was stunned. This is the plot of Iron Man 1. I didn't expect time to pass so quickly. In a blink of an eye, Tony is about to grow up. From one extreme to another, the final sacrifice is regrettable. However, Anton is not worried about Tony's safety. If Superman is the biological son of the DC universe, then Iron Man is the biological son of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It doesn't make sense for a child of destiny of this degree to fall at the turning point of his life. When Tony comes back, he will be Iron Man. Anton touched his chin and suddenly an idea came to his mind. He called Betty. "Boss, what do you want?" The Daily Bugle. Betty was sitting at her workstation, looking at the boss's office with the door closed, and she hated Anton for skipping work. Is this the boss's life? If you don't want to go to work, don't go to work. Envy. Tony is missing. Did you know about this? Anton said bluntly. Of course. Betty was puzzled. This news has caused a sensation across the country and even caused discussion around the world. That's Tony Stark, a big arms dealer. Don't forget, Batman is a movie invested by Tony Stark. Anton characterized this matter. The idea of Batman not only comes from me, but also Tony's ideas. It is Tony Stark's posthumous work. Posthumous work. Betty was stunned. Boss, you are really a genius. She took a breath. I really want to cut open your heart to see if it is black. Making money is not shameful. Anton snorted. Hurry up and hype it up. If I don't see the box office increase tomorrow, I will fire you. Your heart must be black. I know it without cutting it open. Betty sighed. Anton happily opened the system fan value interface 8.8 million. This is quite in line with Anton's expectations. According to his estimation, the Batman armor will be in his pocket as early as tomorrow, or at the latest the day after tomorrow. San Francisco. Drake received a message from the head of the bodyguards. Looking at the name of the genius director on the computer, a happy smile appeared on his face. Genius director? Drake muttered to himself. Soon, as many people praise you as you will feel sorry for you. At the same time, New York, Manhattan Financial District, Wall Street Court, Continental Hotel. Winston saw the photo handed to him by his subordinates and showed a little surprise. As the operator of the Continental Hotel, He has worked diligently for more than 30 years and has established a huge network of relationships in the New York underground. He knows New York celebrities very well. The person in the photo is the focus of discussion in the United States. However, thinking of the party who issued the order, Winston did not feel strange at all and even felt that the other party's revenge came too late. A reward of 10 million. He narrowed his eyes and sighed. Even if he is in trouble, he is still so rich. Winston, you are looking for me? John Wick came to Winston. At this time, he had agreed with the Continental Hotel on the time and date of retirement. John, this is your last mission before retirement. Winston smiled. John Wick looked at the young man in the photo. He took the information handed over by Winston, read it carefully for a few minutes, and said expressionlessly, "Should I say thank you?" "You're welcome, I'll take it as you said it." Winston waved his hand and said in a gentle tone, "After all, this is your last mission. I hope you can experience the boredom after retirement in advance. If you want to come back, you are welcome at any time." "I won't come back," John Wick replied indifferently and turned around. "Goodbye, Winston." "Goodbye." Winston looked far away and sat on the sofa like a king, as if watching his knights go to war. In fact, that's the case. For him who is in charge of the Continental Hotel, John, as the king of assassins, is his knight, and the most powerful knight. Unfortunately, the best tool man is going to retire. It's time to discover new people. Winston fell into thinking. On the other side, after John Wick left the Continental Hotel, he got in his car and took the dog and the co-pilot to a high-end villa area. Any house here is worth tens of millions. John Wick has worked for the Continental Hotel for so many years and has killed so many people diligently. He can probably only afford one of them, and the cheapest one. But John Wick was calm. People like him, in most cases, have abandoned unnecessary emotions, especially jealousy and anger. Thinking that this would be his last job, John Wick's eyes changed slightly. As a benchmark among killers, Winston did not let him complete an almost impossible task in his last job, which was really kind. He is neither a gangster, nor a retired agent, nor a retired soldier. For him, a man known as the King of Killers, a mere unprepared and powerless genius director is not a piece of cake. Chapter 23, Man in Armor. Tony Stark, you are really my destiny. Anton was so happy to see that his fan value reached the standard that he tap danced on the floor. He thought he would have to wait until tomorrow to exchange for the main template of Batman, but he didn't expect that after Betty released the news of Tony's posthumous work in time to hype the movie, the Batman movie instantly became a hot search and attracted countless people's attention again. Those who were not interested in the movie decided to buy a movie ticket for the deceased Tony. After watching the movie, these people often thought that Batman was so cool and felt that it was worth the trip, so they joined Batman's fan club. They contributed money and effort. The fan value increased so quickly. From day to night alone, the speed of the day's surge was comparable to the fastest time of the fan value increase on the day the movie was released. Exchange. Anton immediately entered the system space and exchanged for the basic template of Batman. A miracle happened. Anton, who was just over 1.8 meters tall, suddenly jumped a few centimeters to 188. The muscles of his whole body moved and then tightened, and each muscle was full of explosive power, especially the 8 well-defined abdominal muscles, which were as hard as a 1 meter thick steel plate. At the same time, something was stuffed into his mind. In front of him, a series of words appeared on the skill panel that only he could see. Ultimate physical fitness, erudition, indomitable will, martial arts master, detective master, tactical master, language master, intimidation master, interrogation master, skill master, escape master, disguise master, tracking master. All the dense skills were lit up. Seeing this, Anton took a breath. Batman is really not a human. Combined with the information just in his mind, he sincerely admired Batman's efforts. Bruce Wayne is a man who squeezes human potential to the extreme. Top skills, superb wisdom, and high-tech weapons. These 3 magic weapons are indispensable and are the secret of Batman's invincibility. With a thought, the basic armor immediately appeared outside the body. Bat helmet, bat uniform, bat arm glove, multi-purpose belt, bat boots, bat transmitter, bat cape, bat dart, bat claw hook gun, bat cable launcher, etc. The supporting equipment of the basic armor, along with the appearance of Batman's basic armor, appeared in the system toolbar that only Anton could see. Gudang. This is so cool. Anton suppressed the idea of laughing out loud and continued to explore the joy that the Batman main template brought him. He saw that there was also an option for transportation in the toolbar. Transportation, Batmobile, Batplane, Batmotorcycle, Batboat, Batjet, Batcopter, Batboat, Batwatercraft. Select Batmotorcycle. Swish. A motorcycle with huge tires and heavy firepower equipment such as machine guns on both wings instantly appeared on the floor in front of him. Fortunately, his room is spacious enough, otherwise, the appearance of the Batmotorcycle is not easy to hide. Seeing this peculiar, exaggerated and wild motorcycle, Anton sat on it in a nearly lying posture, slightly twisting the handlebars, and felt like he was at the mercy of his arm. After a while of experiencing it, he got off the car and waved his hand with satisfaction. The Batmobile, the basic armor, including the increased height and abdominal muscles, all disappeared. He returned to his original appearance, feeling inexplicably empty, just like those nights when he was drained. In this case, I might as well keep the Batman state. The changes in my body are not that big, and it's easy to fool people by saying it's fitness training. Anton touched his chin. With another thought, he returned to the strong Batman form. The changes in his body were secondary. He was particularly fond of the Batman armor. He summoned it to cover his body and kept stroking it. The cold touch made him feel very refreshed. Suddenly he understood why Tony Stark was addicted to making steel armor after becoming Iron Man. How can women be as fun as lifting weights? According to the information in his mind, Anton turned on various functions of the Batman armor's perspective. Infrared scanning, thermal energy sensing, HMM. Anton noticed that a figure was lying outside the room, approaching him from not far below the window. The human figure displayed by thermal energy moved little by little. He looked strange. Thief. After all, it was a high-end villa area. The security guards wouldn't be so unprofessional. Especially at night, they would strengthen patrols. That would be interesting. Anton pondered for a moment, moved a small stool, and sat in front of the window. While getting familiar with the operation of the Batman armor, he stared at the figure climbing up to his window. Swish. John Wick carefully pushed open the window and lifted the curtains. Suddenly he was stunned. In front of him, a man wearing a cool technological armor and a helmet with two pointed ears was sitting on a chair with his legs crossed. A pair of deep eyes seemed to have magic, staring at him with interest. The moment he saw him, the man raised his lips and his body suddenly disappeared from his sight. Not good. John Wick let go suddenly, trying to jump from the second floor to the lawn to escape, but his head was suddenly hit hard, and his body flew backwards involuntarily, falling on the lawn with his legs spread out. HMPH. He groaned. His mind was confused for a moment, and he didn't care about the pain, and subconsciously got up and wanted to run. Fortunately, the grass was soft, and the experienced assassin adjusted his posture as he fell out of the window, so he was not seriously injured. Bang. However, the figure that seemed to be hidden in the darkness followed closely behind him, moving left and right. John Wick didn't run a few steps, and his knees hurt, and he rolled forward again. Shit. He gritted his teeth, knowing that his opponent was not easy to deal with, and he couldn't run away, so he made a decision immediately. He stood still, raised his gun and focused, catching the figure in the dark. I don't know if it was an illusion, but the wind was filled with low laughter, as if mocking John Wick's overestimation of his ability. Whoosh! Exclamation mark. The figure floated with the wind, from far to near, and quickly enlarged in John Wick's sight. The latter pulled the trigger without hesitation. Whoosh! The pistol with a silencer engulfed the flames, and the peanut-like bullets heated the barrel, cut through the air, and went straight to the chest of the black figure. Clang. This was the collision sound that made John Wick despair. Armor is bulletproof. Foul. The last thought flashed through his mind. The next moment, his eyes went dark, he lost consciousness, and collapsed on the lawn. When John Wick opened his eyes again, he was tied up with iron chains, and tied to a dimly lit basement, unable to move. In front of him was still the mysterious man wearing armor and a helmet, with amazing skills. Speak. The man crossed his arms and looked down at him from top to bottom, high above him. He said in a commanding tone, "Who sent you?" Chapter 24 Trust from the old man. John Wick quickly calmed down and looked at the armored man in front of him without any negative emotions of fear or shrinking. "Kill me," he said lightly. He had been in this line of work for so long that he had long since put life and death aside. In his mind, he recalled a face that was not beautiful but full of tenderness. There was also a lively dog. "Close your eyes." "Really?" Anton looked at the man in front of him. Judging from Batman's experience, he had a strong killer aura. There are two extremes of killers. One is unprofessional and will tell you when asked. The other is very professional and torture is useless. This man is undoubtedly the latter. Everyone yearns to live, especially people like you, who are in the darkest corner of the world, but yearn for light more than anyone else. Anton was not in a hurry, and his tone was not hurried. He whispered, "Admit it, you want to live more than anyone else." John Wick didn't speak. Woof. Suddenly, a crisp dog bark made him open his eyes suddenly. Staring at Anton, the uncontrollable anger burned in his eyes like a spark that set the prairie ablaze. "Your dog is fine." Anton walked behind John Wick, brought the dog, which was also tied up, in front of the latter, and said with a smile, "But I can't guarantee that it will die before you. There is a kind of food in the East called dog meat hot pot, which is spicy but not dry, numb but not strong, rich in flavor, and not greasy, after eating for a long time. I don't mind letting you experience this delicious dish before you die." John Wick's face twitched. Continental Hotel. Seeing that Anton did not lie, and did not dare to provoke his opponent with the dog's life, he was no longer tough. "I'm from the Continental Hotel. There is no direct contact between the killer and the employer, so I don't know who is going to kill you." Anton asked. "You don't know. Someone must know. The controller of the Continental Hotel is Winston. He is the boss who controls all the killers, and the task orders are assigned by him." Since it was exposed, John Wick no longer concealed it. Besides, his identity is not a secret in New York, and many gangsters know him. It is not difficult to find the Continental Hotel through his appearance. John Wick considers himself unlucky. He is not afraid of death, but he just wants to save the life of the dog in front of him. This is the dog given to him by his fiancée. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is a token of love. Continental Hotel, John Wick. Anton immediately matched the person in front of him with the dog in his hand. What kind of mess has entered this world? This guy doesn't look like Keanu Reeves. While thinking, he was a little undecided about how to deal with John Wick. Do what you love. If his identity at this time was not Batman, he would definitely kill John Wick without hesitation, and even the dog would not be spared. However, he is now wearing Batman's armor, so it is necessary to act like a real person. The principle of not killing. It is the biggest feature of Batman. Stop killing with killing, and fight violence with violence. The two are very different. If Anton wants to play Batman, of course he will consider Bruce Wayne's original characteristics. The principle of not killing is the principle that Batman has always followed. Someone once said that a Batman who kills people is the Joker. Anton disagreed, but he also admitted that there was some truth in this statement. After all, with the talent that Bruce Wayne has honed over the years, it would be too easy for him to be the Joker. The two extreme sides are thought-provoking. John Wick saw the armored man in front of him pondering, gradually putting away the anger in his eyes, and calmly waiting for his final end. Bang! Suddenly, a palm knife came. He fainted again. This time, when John Wick opened his eyes, he found that he had not moved, and his hands and feet were still tied. The same was true for his beloved dog, who was snoring at his feet. He felt a little relieved. In front of him, the armored man disappeared. A young man and an old man were talking in front of him. John Wick recognized at a glance that this was the genius director, who was also his mission target. "Is he here to kill you?" Jonah Jameson's face was gloomy. His years of experience and the intuition he had developed after years of ups and downs in the business world made him immediately lock on the mastermind behind the scenes. Life Foundation. Jameson gnashed his teeth. Furious, "I underestimated them, Anton. You hide for a few days. I will make them pay the price. No need. Anton smiled and said, I will handle this matter. You need to do is to help me finish it. Finish it? Jameson was stunned and looked at Anton. What can you do? If I can't do anything, how do you think I caught this man? Anton asked back. John Wick, the king of assassins in New York. Do you think he is a street thug who can only steal petty crimes? John Wick. Jameson was stunned again. He looked at the embarrassed man in front of him. His face was bruised and swollen, but he couldn't see the style of the king of assassins in New York. Then his eyes moved down. The man doesn't look good, but the dog is well raised. After a while, he gave his evaluation. I've handed him over to you. You can do whatever you want with him. Anton said, old man, please notify the New York Police Department after midnight to clean up the mess in the Manhattan Financial District, Wall Street Court, Continental Hotel. Jameson has a wide network of contacts, especially in New York, which he is more familiar with than anyone else. When he heard the address, his pupils shrank, and he turned his head suddenly and stared at Anton. Are you going to cause trouble for the Continental Hotel? As you can see, yes. Anton looked at him. Anton, the Continental Hotel has never been the key. Behind it is the high table. The high table is not our enemy, or even anyone's enemy. They only respect the rules. Jameson emphasized, you must know that our enemy is the Life Foundation. Although there is no evidence to prove that the mission received by the Continental Hotel came from the Life Foundation, for Jameson, this is an answer that does not need to be verified. You are right. The Continental Hotel is not my enemy. However, since they have accepted a mission that cannot be completed, they will have to pay the price. Anton said meaningfully, besides, I went to the Continental Hotel to work, not for the Continental Hotel. Jameson frowned. He vaguely understood what Anton meant. Of course, what he still couldn't figure out was where Anton's confidence came from. He opened his mouth, but in the end said nothing. He watched Anton leave the basement, and through the monitor on the wall, he saw Anton get into the car brought by John Wick, and sighed that the child had really grown up. Boom. The 1969 Ford Mustang sedan drove away from the villa area. Jameson retracted his gaze and looked at John Wick, pondering for a while. The king of assassins in New York, John Wick, I have heard of your name for a long time. Jonah Jameson touched his chin. He took out an old revolver from his arms and pointed it at John Wick's head. The latter looked at the muzzle calmly. I heard that you are going to retire. Are you interested in changing jobs? Suddenly, Jonah Jameson's eyes flickered. He put away the gun and said, if Anton can solve the Continental Hotel, you will stay and work for me. If not, I will kill you. This deal is very unfair. John Wick had no choice, but he could feel the strong confidence that Jonah Jameson exuded at this time. Why? John Wick looked at Jameson, full of doubts. If he relies on the ability just now, he can't solve the Continental Hotel. He is my grandson. Jameson said frankly, my grandson has grown up. So I believe in him. Thanks to Raging Water for the reward. Chapter 25. Batman emerges. When Anton took over the Daily Bugle, Jameson was actually very dissatisfied with Anton's performance. Fortunately, there was a set of operating procedures that he had preset within the Daily Bugle, so that even if Anton did nothing, the Daily Bugle could continue to operate for a long time. Jameson's dissatisfaction reached its peak when Anton changed his tone and said he wanted to make a movie. But after all, he was his only grandson, so he had to pinch his nose and agree with Anton's idea of developing his career. It is always good to be motivated. Unexpectedly, from that day on, Anton seemed to have changed. The biggest change in Jameson's perception of Anton was not from Anton's career progress, but from the moment before. From the moment he knew that John Wick was easily taken down by Anton, he realized that the child had grown wings and could fly solo, and there was not much protection he could give. Jameson looked far away. He looked at the time. It was 28 minutes after 10 p.m. Anton said that he would call the New York Police Department to clean up the mess after 12 o'clock, including the time for rushing. Even if he was faster, there was only about an hour left for Anton. Let me see how far you can go, Anton. Jameson was full of expectations. Anton's confidence made him very curious. Although there was not much communication between the grandfather and grandson, both sides understood each other's meaning. You wait and see. I'm waiting. In order to avoid people directly linking him with Batman, Anton has been traveling in remote areas since he left home. The purpose is to avoid cameras and not want to expose direct evidence that he is Batman. Finally, Anton came to a deserted industrial area. Enter the sewer from here. Here, summon the Batmobile in the vehicle and enter the Batman state, and Batman's basic armor emerges outside his body. He lies on the Batmobile, starts and screws the motorcycle. Buzz. The low turbine sound that does not explode resounds. Whoosh. The Batmobile flies out of another exit of the sewer. Estimating the time, there is about 1 hour and 10 minutes before 12 o'clock. It takes 20 minutes to get from here to Manhattan at the speed of the Batmobile. He still has 50 minutes left to solve the Continental Hotel. That's enough. Anton's face under the helmet was very flamboyant. Batman's power gave him great confidence. Although the power of Batman's basic armor could not make him surpass those amazing opponents in the Marvel world at once, he was already invincible to the Continental Hotel, which unified the underground killer world in New York. No matter how strong the people in the Continental Hotel were, they were just ordinary people. Among ordinary people, if Anton could not be unstoppable, it must be Anton's problem, not Batman's. Whoosh. Anton drove the Batbike and sped along the street. No one could stop him along the way. Even on a traffic jam, he could jump out from the roof of the car, like a motorcycle stunt, soaring into the sky, crossing dozens of meters. No scruples. Unbridled. Arrogant. Although he adhered to the principle of not killing, New York was different from Gotham City, and intended not need to hide the existence of Batman too much. Compared to the future Iron Man fought against a bad day at the gate of Stark Industries. Two steel monsters hammered each other. There was also the Hulk fighting against the Abomination. Two muscular men, one green and one yellow, wrestling. Even the Avengers, who destroyed most of New York, fought against the Chitauri aliens, and so on. What does it matter if Batman drives a motorcycle on the road? Small scene. After all, this will become a world full of superheroes. Batman's existence does not need to be circulated among the crowd as a secret, but can be displayed openly. This also conforms to Anton's inner idea of harvesting fans' value. The only thing to note is that Anton is not going to reveal the fact that he is Batman, so that a lot of trouble can be avoided. At least, if he is not going to expose it to the public, a lot of trouble will be saved. What? You said that as the director of Batman, how could no one associate him with Batman? Just don't admit it. Don't young people like to play role-playing? Isn't Halloween exercise okay? As long as I don't admit it, I'm not Batman. Isn't this reasonable? Wow. Someone on the road saw Anton's appearance at this time and was shocked. What is that? So cool. Are you role-playing? What role is he playing? So cool. I want to dress like this for Halloween, no matter how much it costs. It's Batman. It's a recently released movie, and it seems to be Tony Stark's last work. I'm going to watch it right away. Everyone who saw this scene had their eyes shining. No matter men, women, young or old, they were all attracted by Anton at this moment. It can be seen that Batman's appeal to ordinary people is not limited by gender or age. Beep beep. Beep beep. The sirens on the road continued. Especially the owners of the vehicles whose roofs were run over by the Batbike were very upset. Some people called the police directly. Others stared at the huge wide tires of the Batbike and the figure who was almost lying on the motorcycle, shouting loudly in their hearts. Motorcycle stunts, I'll learn them when I get back. Master, don't go. Teach me how to drive a motorcycle. How much is this motorcycle? Buy it. Buy it. Buy it. Anton rushed into the Manhattan area with such an arrogant attitude. Manhattan is the most densely populated and economically developed area in New York. It is prosperous everywhere. The police here patrol day and night, and the density is so high that people in the slums can hardly imagine. A few minutes after Anton entered Manhattan, he was discovered by the patrolling police, not to mention that, because of Anton's arrogance, some people kept calling the police. Speeding. Deliberately destroying other people's vehicles. The patrolling police instinctively wanted to chase him immediately, but suddenly received an order from the communicator on his body. Don't chase. After 12 o'clock, all the police in the Manhattan area gathered at the entrance of the Continental Hotel. That's when they arrested people. The police were confused. But the tools at the grassroots level don't need to understand the transactions of the top leaders. Obeying orders is their way of survival. They all agreed. After Anton entered the area near the Continental Hotel, many shops on the roadside noticed something was wrong, stopped business, took out pistols from drawers, and stared at the approaching people in a fighting posture. Even passers-by hid in corners with great experience, staring at the passing shadow vigilantly. Then, under their horrified eyes, the man in strange armor drove a cool motorcycle across the street and rushed straight into the Continental Hotel. Some people were stunned. Is he going to die? Close the door. The person next to him looked solemn. This matter has nothing to do with us. No matter how the Continental Hotel responds, we'd better not get involved. That's right. The man nodded, his face full of regret. What a pity for that motorcycle. And that outfit. The armor is pretty cool. The person next to him suddenly recalled. By the way, have we seen that look somewhere before? The two looked at each other, but couldn't remember it. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.